Please welcome our mayor, Buddy Dyer.
Good afternoon and welcome to our December 15th, 2014 City Council meeting. The very last council meeting of the year. You guys ready? All right, we're going to start today's proceedings with the invocation offered today by Father Hector Vasquez Saad, who currently serves as the pastor assistant at St. Charles Catholic Church in College Park. Father Vasquez Saad was born and raised in Ponce, Puerto Rico, Commissioner Ortiz. Ponce. And has served at St. Charles since August of this year. St. Charles's Parish was established in March of 1954. The church has been serving the community for 60 years, and its beliefs are based on the commitment to respond to God's call to become one body in Christ through the celebration of sacraments, education, faith formation, and community outreach. Following the invocation, we'll be led in the pledge today by District 6 Commissioner Samuel B. Ings. Would everybody please join me in standing?
In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen. Lord, we're gonna give you thanks for this beautiful day and also for the opportunity that you give us to talk to you and to ask you for the gift of wisdom in all of us as we continue serving our community. We ask you to pour out blessings over every single person in this room and to please, Lord, keep us always safe in your sight. We ask this to Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll and make a determination of quorum, please?
Commissioner Gray?
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz?
Here.
Commissioner Stewart?
Here.
Commissioner Sheehan?
Here.
Mr. Hill?
Here.
Commissioner Ings?
here.
Mayor Dyer?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. First order of business will be the consideration of minutes from the workshop agenda review and city council meetings of December the 8th.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Ortiz. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, so the motion carries. We have no awards and presentations or recognitions today, so we can get down to business. Quick few items from the mayor's update. Number one, I want to wish everybody a happy and safe holiday season. It's a special time for family, friends, and community, and I would encourage everyone as you do your holiday shopping to think local. Think about patronizing those businesses in our community that are in our downtown and part of our Orlando Main Street programs. And speaking of holiday shopping, this Friday, Commissioner Ings and I will celebrate the completion of the construction of the iDrive Congestion Relief Project, which makes it easier for our residents and tourists to patronize the iDrive businesses and attractions. The project is about 1.5 miles long and includes an exclusive lane for buses, new wider sidewalks, and bike lane improvements. I'd like to recognize Commissioner Ings for his leadership on this project, Commissioner. Last week, we officially began the demolition process for the new Orlando Police Department headquarters by beginning the demolition of the existing building on that future site, and we look forward to beginning construction on that in April of 15 with a completion date in the summer 2016. And then several items of note on the agenda. Today we'll vote on funding for 14 of the mayor's matching grant projects, and these matching grants give neighborhoods the opportunity to address neighborhood needs, engage our city's youth in constructive activities, and it's a deal where they give generally hours of time and we put up a little bit of cash, and it improves many of our neighborhoods. So I know that there are people representing those receiving the grants. Would you please stand and be recognized today if you're receiving? Also, thank you very much, and thank you for your participation in your neighborhood and your city. There is a contract with the Corporation for Supportive Housing, which is an entity that will help us with our goal of placing 300 of our most vulnerable citizens in permanent supportive housing over the next several years. They worked with the City of Houston to reduce their homeless population, chronic homeless population, by 58% in a little over 2 years. So if Houston can do it, I know that we can do it. And then finally, I just want to mention the funding agreement with Best Foot Forward. We don't have the best reputation in the country in terms of pedestrian safety, so taking part in Best Foot Forward has really yielded great results in the city. With that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a number of items that are acted upon through a single vote of council. We give each of our council members an opportunity to comment on items on the consent agenda and update you on important happenings in their district. We rotate the order that we do that. We're going to begin today with Commissioner Ings, District 6.
Thank you, Mayor. Right into the agenda, item A2, the mayor's matching grants, and the first item is the Junior Achievement of Central Florida. This is the Pathfinders program, and I want to congratulate you because I know you're going to be going out at Carver Middle School and other schools as well. But Carver is in District 6, so we're just looking for great things in helping our kids. And then obviously this is in partnership with the After School All-Stars. Then also in the mayor's matching grants is the Orlando Neighborhood Improvement Corporation, ONIC, their Whiz Kids Learning Lab. And even though it's not listed on the sheet as being a part of District 6, but Boca Club Apartments are in District 6, so we are represented there, and ONIC is doing a great job in our community as well. And then, of course, the Zeta Foundation with their youth program, mentoring program for girls, ages 4 to 18, and so we're looking for great things there. They're going to promote cultural awareness, social skills, educational enrichment, leadership development, and community service, and our kids need all of this and even more. So thank you so much, Mayor, through the matching grants program and helping so many different organizations in our community. I'd also like to acknowledge my District 6 Christmas Parade that was held this past Saturday. A great event. We had Mayor Bruce Mount from Eatonville, Orange County Clerk of the Courts, Tiffany Moore Russell, Orange County Commissioner Scott Boyd, and Orlando City Commissioner Regina Hill. And we also had the I Drive trolley rolling along Bruton Boulevard in Columbia, and we had several other organizations in the parade as well. And this was the 4th annual District 6 Washington Shores Community Christmas Parade and Festival. The festival was held in Hankins Park. And Mayor, just to let you know, too, the people at the end of the parade sang happy birthday to me on that Saturday, which was my birthday. So 12, 13, 14 is going to come around again in another 89 years, I believe. And I'm hoping to be around for it. We also had as our Grand Marshal, Mr. Freddie Demings. He's the father of Sheriff Jerry Demings, and he was so proudly representing the community there as the Grand Marshal for the parade. We had several different groups, so this was a great event. And then the I Drive NASCAR, and the only way that I can describe this is fast and furious. This is Orlando's newest indoor kart racing entertainment complex. They, in partnership with the AMP Group and NASCAR out of Charlotte, North Carolina, have formed this I Drive NASCAR. This is a very spectacular place, a very upscale indoor kart racing facility, so many other games and opportunities, even bowling that will go on there. I had an opportunity last night to race in one of the cars, and I'll tell you, everybody on this council will enjoy that. You can go up to about 45 miles per hour. It is fast, it is furious, and it is intense. As a matter of fact, they're having the private VIP pre-grand opening tomorrow at 3 p.m. at Municipal and Vanguard. And then iDrive NASCAR is going to open up to the public on Friday, December the 19th at 10 a.m. Also, I had an opportunity to attend the Cotter Tabernacle Church, CME Church on Cottage Hill Road. Commissioner Hill was there, as well as Renita Sanders representing Congresswoman Kareem Brown. And each of us talked on Black Lives Matter, police killing among black males, and that was a huge opportunity for us because the church was there. They were all dressed in black for this event. And then, of course, on Sunday at 2 p.m., Colonel Joe Kittinger and Mayor Dyer and Congressman Micah, we were there for the F-4 static display and Vietnam Veterans Memorial dedication of the F-4 fighter. Great event, and thank you, Mayor Dyer, for having us there. And it was just really a truly community event because there were so many hundreds of people there for this event. Great event. And then Metro West Winterfest for 2014, featuring Frozen, was held at the Metro West Golf Club on Hiawassee Road. And we had thousands of people there last night, youth, and it was a great community response. Upcoming event that I do have, and that's December 20th at 1 p.m. here at the City Hall Rotunda, the African United Council Christmas Children's Party will be taking place, and so we'll be here for a couple of hours or so celebrating Christmas with the African United Council and the children. And then, of course, coming up November 9th or 10th is Remembering Haiti, and so we're going to be involved. And more information will come forward with that, and that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move to Commissioner Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot going on in District 1, and we try to put those on our website. One issue is Ed's getting ready to tee up a video. We had kind of a special event this Saturday where compliments of the Frank and Selena Nobilo Foundation, we had the opportunity to take 25 kids from Citrus Square, and they had the opportunity at 6 a.m. to run loose in a Target store and spend $100 buying toys. And then we followed it up with, and here's some pictures now, followed it up with books and snacks and a visit to see Santa. And the kids had a great time. The toughest problem for me was after spending an hour with my boy there, he, as we approached Santa, he looked at me and said, "Commissioner, is there such a thing as Santa?" And I didn't really know how to handle that one, but the best I could come up with is, well, he's dressed like Santa, so let's go with that one. But thanks to Ed and Cindy who helped us, and certainly Jeannie Wilson and Edgar Malave. So good time had by all, and the kids really enjoyed their day. So thrilled to be part of that. And Ed, thanks for getting up at 6 to take those pictures. Your hand was quite steady. Well done. On the agenda, just one item I want to mention, and that's our friends in District 1, the Wing Shack. And, sir, if you'd be kind enough just to raise your hand or stand up if you'd like to. Thank you. The proprietor of the Wing Shack, through our business assistance program, they've been in business for 25 years and have done such a good job. They are basically doubling the size of their facility, and we're helping them a bit through the business assistance program. But anybody that invests time and dollars in our city we owe them a thank you. So thank you for doing business in the city, and appreciate you expanding your business. So thanks very much. And Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move to District 2, Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Is that the Wing Shack on Michigan and Conway? Yes. Trophy wings, the best in the whole city of Orlando. I'll tell you what, they're the ones. I'm a customer there, so. Thank you, Mayor. Last Friday, I had the honor of attending the president of the YMCA of Central Florida, Mr. Jim Ferber's retirement celebration. came to represent you, Mayor, and I got to say this. You may ask yourself, where the heck have you been, Commissioner Ortiz? I didn't know Gene Ferber. Seems like everybody else in the world knew Gene Ferber, and I didn't know Gene Ferber. What a wonderful man. And I was very proud to meet him, honored to meet him at that particular event. And the man is just wonderful. He left a great legacy, and I hope his successor does just at least half of what this gentleman has done. It's great. So congratulations. And Mayor, I'm surprised you didn't talk in your mayor's comment about the F-4 Phantom dedication ceremony. What a great event. That was yesterday afternoon. The day was such a great day for such an event, and for golfing too, right, Commissioner Gray? Anyhow, so it was a great event. Colonel Joe Kittinger delivered a great speech. So was our mayor and Congressman Micah. Great monument dedicated to the memory of those who fought in Vietnam. And if you have a chance, please stop by. It's something that makes us very proud, not only in District 2, but in the city of Orlando, an F-4 Phantom. And last but certainly not least, we had a long, challenging year this year. But thanks to God, our community and our business community and our residents, here we are at the epicenter of the world, as many of you know it, and we have a lot to be thankful for. Let's not remember the things that separate us, but the things that keep us together as a community. And with that being said, I wish each and every one of you a very, very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. District 3, Commissioner Stewart.
Let me also extend a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. This is a wonderful time of year. I call it a wonderful holy season because I think it ought to be created as that. But that's just me, and I get a chance to share a little bit about my heart. Let me mention a couple of things on the agenda. I'm happy to see C9 and C10, the storage area, the yard work, getting ready to be for the ultimate I-4 project. I don't know how long all of us have waited, but we're getting ready to actually see something happen, which we're really thrilled about. So it's going to be 6 years of a lot of hassle, but when it's over, we'll be a much better community because of it. There's still time to visit the Lou Gardens, the Holiday House. It's open until January 5th. Please get a chance to go over there. And then come back on January 10th. We approved a couple of meetings ago, Commissioners. Ribbit the exhibit, 20 life-size frogs that are dispersed throughout the garden. So you get a chance to come back, have a wonderful Christmas time, and then come back and enjoy a different portion of that. Let me also say congratulations on the agenda to the mayor's matching grants in my district. Audubon Park Covenant Church is providing Art in the Park, which is an after-school arts enrichment program that offers cooking and painting and gardening and performing arts and nature exploration available to all citizens, all the youth in the city from 5 to 18. In addition to that, there's a couple other ones that I think are important in our district, and that is the Orlando Museum of Art. We'll have a Creative Connections program, an interactive program that connects children with developmental disorders, such as autism spectrum disorders, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and using art as therapy. And then, of course, our own Lee Middle School and their Project Career Inspire program over there offered to the students of Lee Middle School. So that's kind of a neat thing. Let me share one bit of sad news. Some of you may know Margie McKinney, a lifelong resident of Central Florida. She passed away last week. Margie was 98 and a very dear friend of College Park. In fact, probably married about 500 or 600 couples. She ran a wedding planning back when wedding planning wasn't quite as organized as it was today. And she would do that throughout the College Park. I had the honor of having her handle our wedding and then also handle my children's weddings. So it was she's just a neat, sweet lady who's just raised 4 great kids. The funeral will be this week, but she's an icon of College Park. And it reminds me that oftentimes we will look at our city and develop and see what our city is based upon the buildings that we have. But I will tell you that our city is much more than just that. It's also the people that we have that make that city. So this is one of those great icons in our community, and that's a wonderful tribute to that. And then the other great icon is Joe Kittinger. Thank you for mentioning that. That was a wonderful day yesterday. Couldn't ask for a better day. But to see that plane coming off of East-West Expressway, Mayor Frederick told me that thing weighs 20,000 pounds stripped. So you can imagine that I was talking to Joe about when he put it up there, that they had to fix it to the ground. A plane that's designed, when the wind comes by, to pick it off the ground is now has to be bolted to the ground. It's a really unique engineering challenge, and but it looks great, and it's a great tribute to those who fought and died in Vietnam. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner, District 4, Commissioner Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm very glad to see on item C7 Best Foot Forward funding. I think that's just great, and the enforcement to try to make people obey the pedestrian signals and crossings. I nearly got hit today by a bus at the corner of Virginia and Mill, so I'm very happy to see that, and we'd like to encourage people, please, when you're turning right, check for pedestrians first. It's the law. I think that would have been a bad council meeting for y'all. Well, depends upon how I vote, I guess.
It would have been a worse day for you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. So anyway, there's been some concern too about as we retrofit the crosswalks and things like that. Why are we redoing the crosswalks on the sidewalks? It's because we're doing them for ADA accessibility. So again, we're not wasting tax dollars. This is actually to make them ADA compliant and accessible. And I've seen a couple situations where people in wheelchairs were trying to get down an ADA non-accessible ramp. So this is the right thing to do, and that's why we're going back and retrofitting some of those crosswalks. On the DSNID Board of Directors, I'm delighted to see that they're merging the main streets with the DSNID Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement Districts. I think they have common goals for improvements of the area, and it's good to have a stable funding source for the directors. So I think this is a wonderful agreement as we move downtown south near the hospital forward. Just a couple comments. I was at Lake Eola for the Violectric concert and got to see it lit at night, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I want to thank the Downtown Development Board and CRA for funding a lot of the decorations at Lake Eola Park, because it really is becoming part of people's holidays. There was a lot of people at the park over the weekend, and it just looks absolutely beautiful. And the Christmas tree with the controller that dances to the music, I love it. So it really looks good, Thomas, so thank you so much. Also, Wheels for Kids is coming up. We've done over 1,000 bicycles so far. And while it's not open to the public, because we always take care of the kids at Reeves Terrace, I want to thank my sponsors, Baker Barrios Architects, Brassfield and Gorey, GAI Consultants, Usler Group, Old Town Brokers, Massey Communications, Workscapes, Walmart Supercenter, OPD and the Mounted Patrol, Orlando Fire Department, Station 1, the elves that put the bicycles together, the Orlando Housing Authority, staff from Reeves Terrace Center, and South Street Ministries. All these people help me give out over 100 bicycles a year to these kids, and they ride them to school. So it's a wonderful program. It really makes all of our Christmases, and I want to thank these great sponsors who've been with me, some of them for over 12 years, for doing this for these kids. Again, over 1,000 bicycles for the children at Reeves Terrace, and they actually go to school now because they lost their bus service, so it's a great program. At Greenwood Cemetery this last weekend, we participated in Wreaths Across America. We placed wreaths on 500 of the graves, in the military graves at Greenwood Cemetery, to decorate and honor those who sacrificed all so that we could have holidays with our families. They'll never have another holiday with their families, but we wanted to honor them for their ultimate sacrifice and honor our veterans during this special time of year. And I also want to thank my constituents for the opportunity to serve you. I don't take it lightly, and while I have 47,000 bosses, I can't always make everybody happy. But again, it's great to have this opportunity to be here. I've been here a while, but I never take it for granted. And happy holidays, everyone. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll move to District 5, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, sir. On Thursday, December 11th, my office was able to have its first inaugural community job fair. And I'd like to report it was an epic success. We had over 369 participants come out to the Northwest Community Center, where we had over 28 vendors. And I'd like to thank Chief Mina OPD was there looking at potential candidates to be hired there at OPD because they are recruiting and they're trying to diversify in a great way. The department, Orlando Sheriff Department, they were also there. We were able to hire over 15 people on the spot there at our job fair. Almost 20 jobs are going to be filled this very week. Starting today from 10 to 4, there's a company that has over 30 applicants that are going to be seen this week, and they're going to hire at least 20 potentials. We have 40 applicants that are going to be seen with the downtown company here that hopefully they said they will offer at least 30 jobs. So I'm quite excited about that. We were able to give 5 felons apprenticeship training through a job training program that was there on site. So I'd like to thank all the volunteers and everybody that came out in the participation of the residents. So with that, we were able, the mayor and Orlando Realtors, which I'm quite excited about, and the community is excited about Heroes Common. In Heroes Common, there in the Paramore area, I think it's the beginning of housing and the revitalization and restoration of that Paramore community, which this project is going to offer 6 homes to veterans. They're in that area. You know, veterans that are deserving, that have served our country, have came back home. Some are have some disabilities. Many of them, that's who's going to be offered to. But I think it's going to be big for that particular community there, and that's going to be near the fire department, the new fire department, because there's nothing like a little kid having a hero next door. And for that kid that maybe have had many disadvantages, to see someone that has structure, that has discipline, that can help with guidance in that community. I just thank you, Mayor and Orlando Realtor, for letting this go forward in that vision there. I've been talking with the local residents going out there, and they're quite excited about the beginning of revitalization there in the Paramore area. We were able to have it's my first time assisting hosting this Christmas party, but it's been 31 years for OPD, and it was hundreds and hundreds of kids that was giving Christmas toys. They had a dinner. Their parents came out. There was Santa. It was just amazing. Face paintings, games. We had a Santa on a high-speed boat sitting outside with the kids with an elf. And it was bigger than just giving out bikes and giving out toys and a dinner. What it was the community being engaged with law enforcement, and law enforcement being engaged with the community. And as Commissioner Ing stated a little bit earlier about policing, me and Chief Mina and Eric Smith have been meeting with community leaders and pastors here the last few weeks here in the city. And what we're trying to do is be proactive, not waiting for an incident, but getting to know each other and trusting one another and knowing that we are in this together. And I'd like to thank Chief Mina for stepping up, because we had some bishops and pastors there that was asking some tough questions. And his staff stepped up to the plate. They wasn't afraid to answer these questions as are being asked around the nation. We're in this together, and I think we're off to a good start. There will be more community meetings, and you know, this might not be politically correct what I'm getting ready to say, but I think we have a bigger problem, and that's called black-on-black crime. And that's happening throughout the city, and we have to get a handle on that as community leaders in our own community and as black elected officials stepping out there and going into the trenches. I'm so excited about seeing many of these programs here on the Mayor's Matching Grant that's going to be implemented by organizations in our inner city. But it's going to take sweat equity from our community to assist these organizations that the panel and the mayor has given monies to. So I'm expecting not just law enforcement to step up, but those in our community, Commissioner Eames, to help them at this task. And I was able, as we stated, I enjoyed your parade. And I apologize for getting on that. No, I don't apologize for getting on that soapbox, because there's a crisis, and we're going to have to address this. No more than yesterday, someone hit someone's car, and a black youth and a troubled young man got out and shot up the person's car versus and called the police. I've been going throughout the neighborhoods, and seniors are afraid, even youth are afraid. So I'm asking the community, yes, Black Lives Matters, hands up, don't shoot, great crusades, but we need to do more right here at home with helping these organizations and our churches. I even said it there, Commissioners, over at the church, telling the churches we need to get from out the pulpits and go into the streets and help our youth, because it all matters. Everybody in the community matters. So that's it. I know I've gone too far, but that's where we're at.
Okay, is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ing, second by Commissioner Sheehan. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, those who had only had business on the consent agenda and would like to exit, now would be the appropriate time to do that. Without objection, I'm going to recess the City Council meeting, convene the CRA meeting. Thomas, we've already voted on this as City Council, so I think we can just take up the one item, which is the contract with CSH that we've already approved on City Council agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Ings. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Any further business to come before the CRA, Thomas?
There's none, ma'am. Thank you.
Then we will stand adjourned as CRA. We will convene the Neighborhood Improvement District Board of Directors for the matter of approving meeting minutes and recommended actions from the November 12, 2014 Downtown South Neighborhood Improvement District Advisory Council. Is there a motion to approve those minutes and recommended actions?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Sheehan, second by Commissioner Ings. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, so the motion carries. We will adjourn the Neighborhood Improvement District meeting. We will reconvene the City Council meeting. I'm going to move to ordinances on first reading. The first one has been deleted, so that will bring us to ordinances first read number 2, Madam Clerk.
This is ordinance 2014-70, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, annexing to the corporate limits of the city certain land generally located north of Dubar Street, east of Maltby Avenue, south of Roush Avenue, and west of Lake Baldwin Lane, comprised of 0.46 acres more or less, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to designate the property as industrial on the city's official future land use maps, and designating the property as industrial commercial district with aircraft noise overlay district on the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official future land use and zoning maps, providing for severability, correction of scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Ortiz. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 3, Madam Clerk.
This is ordinance 2014-69, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending the city's adopted growth management plan to assign the future land use map designation of residential low intensity to approximately .0995 acres of land generally located to the north and west of the Katy Way Trail, south of Beach Boulevard, and east of Baldwin Cove Way, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Stewart, second by Commissioner Ortiz. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 4, Madam Clerk.
This is ordinance 2014-71, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, designating certain land generally located north of West Robinson Street, east of North Garland Avenue, south of West Livingston Street, and west of State Lane, and comprised of 2.94 acres of land, more or less, as planned development district with the traditional city zoning overlay district on the city's official zoning maps, providing special land development regulations of the Ace Cafe Orlando Planned Development District, providing for severability, correction, Scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public who would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, hearings, ordinances, second reading, number 1.
This is ordinance 2014-63, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, designating certain land generally located north of Carter Street, east of South Hudson Street, south of Old Winter Garden Road, and west of South Kirkman Road, and comprised of 17.3 acres of land, more or less, as Community Activity Center District with a Resource Protection Overlay District on the city's official zoning maps, providing for amendment of the city's official zoning maps, providing for severability, correction, Scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 2, Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 2014-67, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Orlando, Florida, amending and restating the land development regulations of the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts Plan Development Zoning District, relating to certain land generally located north of East Anderson Street, east of South Orange Avenue, south of East South Street, and west of South Rosalind Avenue, and comprised of approximately 8 acres of land, providing for severability, correction of Scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public who would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Let's skip number 3 for now and get number 4 out of the way, Madam Clerk.
This is ordinance 2014-72, an ordinance amending Chapter 56, City Code, Transportation Impact Fee by amending Section 56.04 by adding definitions, by amending 56.15 to reduce exemptions for specified changes in land use and for transit-oriented developments, by providing severability and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ing, second by Commissioner Sheehan. Is there anyone from the public that would like to testify on this matter? Discussion among commissioners. Hearing none, all in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, number 3, ordinance 2014-64.
An ordinance amending Chapter 55 of the Code of the City of Orlando entitled Regulation of Taxicabs, Limousines, Luxury Passenger Vehicles, Shuttles, and Other Vehicles for Hire by amending Section 55.02 Definitions to add definitions of livery vehicle and transportation network company and modify the definition of prearranged transportation by amending Sections 55.08, 55.14, 55.15, 55.17, and 55.18 to add provisions relative to livery vehicles by amending Section 55.11 relating to telecommunication devices, by amending Section 55.19 to require information on receipt of complaints and recovery of lost property on permit applications, by amending Section 55.21 relating to permit fees, by amending Section 55.29 relating to driver permits, by amending 55.31, 55.35, 55.34 relating to driver obligations and administrative enforcement, and amending Section 55.33 relating to vehicle impoundment, providing for severability and an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ing, second by Commissioner Stewart. Okay, this is the second reading on an ordinance that would expand and amend our existing vehicles for hire ordinance, and this expansion would allow Uber and Lyft and other ride-sharing entities the ability to operate legally within the city of Orlando using their current business models. We're able to do this, we think, without compromising the safety of our residents and our visitors, and we have received a lot of public input, both via the internet and at the city council meeting last week, mostly favorable towards Uber and Lyft operating in the city, some not so, and I want to let you know that we hear you. We also want to allow and have Uber and Lyft and other companies of their type here in Orlando, and that's why we, for the past 6 months, have researched what other communities have done and this new model for transportation, and the changes that we are suggesting would allow Uber and Lyft to no longer be considered illegal as they currently are under our current vehicle for hire ordinance, and the input from all of the citizens as well as the companies and the incumbent entities has been important to us. So we are going to incorporate some additional changes into the ordinance that was read last week, changes that will make it more affordable for the transport network company drivers to apply for a permit and to level the playing field as it relates to rates with traditional taxis, and today's ordinance proposes that. But one thing I want to be very clear on, we're not compromising in the area of safety measures that will protect our traveling public. Things like background checks on drivers, proper insurance coverage, third-party vehicle inspections, those are non-starters for us in terms of not having those within the ordinance, and those are things that, as consumers in the city of Orlando, you should expect that the city is concerned about the safety and welfare of both our residents and the 59 million visitors who come to our community. I'm proud that Orlando is leading the way as one of only about a dozen major cities that have actually put forward a legal framework that allows Uber and Lyft to operate legally within the city. Jody, I've said a little bit about the changes, and I probably should have given you a heads up, but why don't, just for everybody's benefit, you don't need to go through the whole deal from last week, but why don't you elaborate on the modifications to the ordinance since the last meeting?
All right, thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. After last week's hearing, the ordinance that is presented to you today on second reading has a number of modifications that are intended to, well, as the Mayor said, preserving the safety concerns, make some modifications which will reduce the financial impact of starting a alternative transportation modality, such as a transportation network company driver. And those specifically, I think you've got them by memo, but first, the fares that were initially proposed were either the same as liveries, or the same as limos and luxury vehicles, or 1.25% of the taxi minimum rate, which is also the taxi maximum rate. It's just the taxi rate. In this, the version in front of you levels the playing field in both areas. So it would be either the taxi rate as the minimum rate, not with any percentage increase, or the luxury limo rate as the minimum rate. Again, although in taxi cabs they would still be restricted, both minimum and maximum, limos, luxury vehicles, and the new category livery would not be restricted at the upper end. A substantial reduction of the vehicle permit fee, reducing the initial fee, which was $500 for the initial permit and $300 on renewal. And the version in front of you proposes reducing this to $250 for the initial fee and $200 for the annual renewal. Let me say that how that fee works. It's a fee and not a tax. So when it's a fee and not a tax, that means that everything that the city collects from that permit fee has to go towards the program itself, funding the program. So I'm speaking for Byron Brooks, but what the CAO did in the interim was he got the total cost of funding the regulatory program, and that's both the vehicle for hire office. And remember, they have some administrative responsibilities, but they also have enforcement responsibilities. So the vehicle for a hire office is the feet on the ground, making sure that the regulations in our vehicle for hire section are complied with. In addition to that, there's some law enforcement, regular police enforcement activities with respect to vehicles for hire. So the total cost of that, which we had previously divided by the number of taxi, limo, and luxury permits to come up with a figure. And you all look at this figure, I think, annually anyway. But with the assumption that the number of vehicles permitted would essentially double with the new modalities, we thought that doing the math, that the regulatory, the cost of our regulatory program and our administrative program would be fairly supported by this new fee. We also went ahead and added an option if a company had a vehicle that was permitted, but that vehicle was no longer in service, that the company who had purchased that permit could, with a $20 just change fee, transfer that permit to another vehicle to make it easier, I guess, for a company to have more than one vehicle and not worry about if the vehicle breaks down or that driver no longer wants to drive. As long as we get the information that we would normally need on the vehicle in place, that it's been inspected and they can transfer that to another vehicle. And in addition, our ordinance previously said that while vehicles had to be inspected by a third-party provider, any company that had 25 vehicles or more could do that with their own in-house ASE certified mechanic. And we've eliminated the requirement that you have 25 vehicles to do this. So really what we've said now is that our vehicle permits will be based on an independent inspection by an ASE certified mechanic. And those ASE is the terminology used in our ordinance for the certification that mechanics are required to have in order that we know that they're real life mechanics, that can be done by any ASE certified mechanic, making it easier then to get a vehicle for hire permit, we believe. We made a couple of other just minor modifications. One, we clarified the service to the disabled community to make sure that no one was charged extra for a vehicle that was capable of servicing persons with disabilities, nor was there any restriction on being able to bring a service animal in a vehicle for hire. And we've required that vehicles for hire allow service animals and make no charge additionally to the customer for whatever equipment they have to provide. And we amended the signage restrictions slightly and the display of rates slightly at the request of the transportation network companies to make sure that those requirements were inadvertently acting as impediments to their ability to operate in this area. So those are the changes in the version that you see in front of you.
And Jody, would you hit on the background checks in terms of they're able to, transportation network companies able to
Yes,
conduct their own certified background checks and provide them to us versus going through our process?
Yes, background checks can and have always had been actually done by outside third-party providers that were approved by our vehicle for hire administrator. So if a driver wanted to get a driving permit, now a permit to drive, they have to pay us a $25 fee. They have to provide proof that that background check has been done in accordance with our standards, which include the FCIC and NCIC checks. But they just furnish us that proof, and they can get it from the company that employs them, which has a appropriate company that does these background checks. And obviously the background check has to be appropriate, but it doesn't have to be done by us. It's furnished to us by the outside provider.
Questions of Jody, and then we'll go to testimony. Commissioner Ings and Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Jody, we talked a little earlier, but referenced the reducing of the fees for the vehicle permits from $500, I think it's to $250.
Yes, sir.
And then also from $300 to $200 for the renewals. Now that applies to even the taxis, so it applies to everybody. It's not just one group.
Yes, sir. On their renewal, the reduced fare will apply to any vehicle for hire entity in the taxi cab, luxury, limo, or the new livery category.
Okay. Mayor, you are the chief law enforcer for the city of Orlando. And I want to thank you personally for bringing this forward, because we could have waited until next year, but obviously it's very important to all of us. And I appreciate your lead-in statement as well, outlining what we have done, and it's very clear and succinct. And again, I want to thank you for quickly bringing this forward and not waiting to do that. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going through the list, and I've tried to find it a couple times. I still can't seem to find it. The requirement that drivers provide proof of insurance to the level of the state of Florida.
Yeah, let me pull my. I can.
Okay. I thought that was under the permitting portion.
I will say this, that every section of our ordinance was not amended. So to some extent, that requirement, I think, exists
that may be the reason why.
In a non-amended section. But it also, I think, is in the section that talks about, here we go, it's in 5519, application for vehicle permit. And in my version, you've got to kind of keep reading through till subsection 1A, which says what you have to, the vehicle for hire administrator shall issue the vehicle permits upon submission of the following documents. And then A is insurance certification proving that the applicant has met the substantive insurance requirements of 5512. 5512, which was not amended, is the section that actually references the state law. So you're right, you couldn't find it.
Okay, so I just didn't pull the original.
Yes, sir, it's
the
in
original
5512, but the original
I kept looking for that, thinking, I know it's there, I just couldn't find it. All right, and the other choice, key question is, as I understand from what we're recommending, let me kind of just reiterate what Commissioner Ng says. All rates now get lowered for taxi and livery and luxury vehicles.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Those three categories. And we will apply those immediately to the new applicants and at renewal for existing applicants.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. That's all I have right now, Mayor.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Jody, I noticed that in section 55.29, subsection 1A, it says that, actually it says a written application shall include the following items: application name, date of birth, and Social Security has been scratched out. Why is that?
Because my vehicle for hire administrator says we don't use that information anymore, that we have not been requiring it, and it's become superfluous. That they're able to do the background check without that information. I think it's a question of who collects it now, and people are pretty concerned about the collection of Social Security numbers, but I'm sure that information is used when the outside provider does the background check. But the Vehicle for Hire Administration asked us to take it out, saying they were not collecting it anymore.
Okay. It doesn't present any kind of problems in terms of...
I'm told it, and I asked the same question you did. In fact, I called him up and said, why?
And the reason I ask is because when law enforcement is checking sometimes on somebody's identities, they do the background check, of course, name and date of birth, but then to make sure that the person, we're not making a mistake and picking somebody else, they always revert back to Social Security numbers. So I just want to make sure that we're not making a mistake.
I asked the same question. If you want, I don't know where Claudio is to speak to it, but I specifically confirmed it with the Vehicle for Hire Administrator. He said, we are not getting it now.
All right.
We don't need it.
Commissioner Gray.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jody, I was curious. Thank you for the quick turnaround after a week.
I don't know. Do you want Claudio to address that, Commissioner?
Ortiz.
I'm sorry.
Are you okay with
If
what
you
I said?
can, if you
Yes.
can.
We haven't collected Social Security numbers for a while now. There's no really need for it since we have ID and driver's license, and they have a background check.
Okay. All right. Just double checking, making sure that our constituents feel comfortable with it. Thank you.
Commissioner Gray.
Jody, I was curious, the parties involved, both the taxi cab as well as the livery, their response to these changes, are they endorsing these? Again, whatever we adopt, I'd like to have a general assurance that they're in agreement, because that would indicate they will most likely be in compliance. So what have we heard over the last 7 days from the parties involved?
Well, we've met with all the parties, I think, in the last week. And while I would think that the transportation network companies would say this is a start, I believe that they will probably tell you today that they do not think it went far enough, and that they would like to do their own background checks, they would like to do their own vehicle inspections, and they would like to have no minimum fare. Those are the things that would make them happy. I think that the changes we've made make them happier than they were last Monday, but do not make them happy. And as we've advised them, we don't think that this council ever acts once and forever, so we've advised them that we're certain that this will not be the end of our conversations, as we, and I don't know what this commission does, but were this commission to pass this ordinance today, that I'm sure the commission will continue to monitor the situation with respect to how this works. Does it make it possible for transportation network companies to operate? Can they operate effectively and efficiently? Does it have any, are the needs of the transportation needs of our community being served? And I'm sure we'll be back talking about this conversation again at some point in the future.
And Commissioner, I would say that the different interested parties in this have different interests.
Yep.
And we have to balance, our job is to balance all of those interests and to place public safety above all else. I think, and Uber can speak for themselves, but they would prefer not to provide us with information relating to any of their drivers, but I don't find that particularly palatable to not have an idea who the people are that are picking up our residents in their cars or our visitors. So that's an area that they have expressed concern about, and I think we've done a pretty nice job of making it fair for everybody in terms of what the fares are going to be. Everybody has the same rules applicable to them, so we've compromised there as well. So I think we've come a long way, and we had there's not a whole lot of cities that actually have ordinances on the books for us to copy, and things are going to change. I mean, we had people last time testify about how we're not as technologically advanced as some other cities. Well, it turns out that Portland and San Francisco and LA are all suing Uber over the background checks. So we're at least trying to find a place that they can legally operate in the city of Orlando.
Perfect. Okay.
Commissioner Hill?
I have nothing, sir. It was answered.
What's that?
I said I have nothing. It was already answered.
Okay. Commissioner Sheehan?
Well, while I was concerned about this coming back in a week, I'm very glad to see that this wasn't just rushed through with non-substantive changes. A lot of the things that we heard were implemented, because usually I have a concern if something's rushed to a second reading that there weren't substantive changes. So I want to thank you and the mayor for working this through and making substantive changes that make it a lot more palatable to me. I would still like to hear from the public, but sometimes when we hear things, if both sides are unhappy, it's a good compromise. So you might not get everything that you want, and it's very seldom that everybody gets everything what they want here. If we can at least work to make it more fair, and I really like to see the evening out and more of a level playing field. But again, I was concerned about rushing, but I know that you all put a lot of work in this in the last week, and I want to thank you for that.
Commissioner Stewart?
Let me ask briefly on the background checks, FDLE and NCIC background checks. Can you help provide for us a little bit about what that covers? Does it include a fingerprint? Does it include information? I mean, that's...
I'd like to can I defer to the vehicle for hire administrator on this? He would be more accurate.
The background check does not include fingerprints. It just checks for those items on the chapter. When it comes to background, I'll read to you what is required. It checks for criminal records, and it checks for the felonies. It checks for the prostitution portion, and the DUI conviction for the past 5 years. Reckless driving, I believe that's also checked by the FDLE.
So it checks the Florida and the NCIC as
Just
national,
the
I think,
Florida,
correct?
as of right now, it's Florida, it's not national.
Under the amended ordinance, it would be NCIC, the national as well as the Florida database.
Yeah, I guess the question I'm asking is that we've identified some of the items in the ordinance. Are we getting more data from NCIC and from FDLE than is what is required in the ordinance, and should those two items be consistent?
The ordinance itself says such other information as the city may require of the applicants, including but not limited to an FDLE and the new language and NCIC inquiry. So that pretty much leaves it in the hands of the vehicle for hire administrator to ensure that we're getting the background data that we need. I mean, some of it is specifically laid out in the statutes, and then there's a bit of a discretionary piece in terms of satisfying the city with respect to those background checks. So there's a little flexibility in the ordinance, I think, for that purpose. And again, we are also adding to the ordinance the sex offender registry being checked, and that's new in the ordinance. So as soon as this passes, that will be new.
Okay. I guess the question would, based upon this information, let me ask you specifically, are you comfortable that we are going to do, that this will give us all we reasonably can expect in terms of confirming the information about a driver?
Absolutely, sir.
Okay.
Commissioner Hill?
Yeah, I was going to elaborate on that level 2 background check. It's the fingerprinting, and it does cover FDLE from a nursing standpoint because we have to do it also. And it does cover the FBI and the nationwide search. With my company, usually the FDLE forwarded to the corporation that I work for. Is there, and we don't want to adjust anything right now, I know, but moving forward at some point, is it possible that Uber, along with when they give us their information, that they forward that search, because it's in computer form, to us?
As of right now, we only get the copy of certificates of the background check. We don't do any type of fingerprints.
But the level 2 background check that Uber will be doing, not us, if it's a true level 2 background check, you have to be fingerprinted. That's why I don't think the Social Security is really something we need to be considered because your fingerprints is your identity on all, should be on all level 2 background checks. We don't know how they're going to do their level 2 as of yet.
Well, currently, I guess currently the ordinance is just going to require what we've required all along, a third-party independent provider to certify to us that that there are no convictions for any of the offenses that we have listed. The ordinance, I think, gives enough flexibility that we could, certainly if it's a desire of the commission to come back and look at more, stricter. I think stricter. We could require that we get a copy of the background. We don't now. We just get the certificate that they're in compliance.
And if what I would like to see, if possible, if Uber does their level 2 background checks with fingerprinting, since we're not requesting socials, we do need to make sure that that is the person that is being.
Yeah, and I believe that before our vehicle for hire administrator would accept anybody's certification in that regard, they would ensure that that provider had a process in place to make sure that they were doing this as they should.
Thank you.
So.
And on the background checks, the taxi companies, the ride-sharing companies, transportation network companies should have the same interest that we have in making sure that they have drivers that aren't going to commit felonies on customers while in their service. So I think our interests are pretty much aligned in that regard, but it's like all industries that we regulate. It's not a trust me situation. We want verification, and that's what we have to do. Okay? All right. We have some interest from the public. We have 25 appearance requests, so it's the same as last week. For those of you that are here, I'll call you by name. I'll ask you to come to the podium and give your name and address, direct all remarks to the council. You'll have 5 minutes to speak. You don't have to use all 5 minutes if you don't want to. And I'll try to give you maybe a 30-second warning when you're getting close to the end of your time. So I'm going to call 2 or 3 so that you can be in the queue and ready to go. So we'll have Carolyn Rust, followed by Andrew Bateman, followed by Sayal Perot. Carolyn Rust. Carolyn not here? Going once? Okay, and if anybody still has their mobile device on, would you turn it to off or to silent? Andrew Bateman. Wow, this is going to go quicker than I anticipated.
Andrew is trying to get out. There she is. Walking with Ginger today.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. I represent AFC Corporation.
Would you identify yourself, please?
Yes.
Oh, it's Andrea. I'm sorry. That A looks like a W at the end.
Andrea Bateman. I'm an attorney, and I represent AFC Transportation and UTA, Orlando United Taxi Drivers Association. Reviewing the changes, which I have not had an opportunity to study today, but have heard at the council meeting, we believe that this is a step in the right direction. We need clarification as to the fact whether this will, in fact, apply to existing motor vehicle for hires that are licensed in the county or in the city that would now like to go and apply for the livery permits. It was our understanding in discussions that it would not only be limited to transportation networking companies.
That is correct. Other entities can qualify for the livery category as well. The effective date of the ordinance is February the 1st, but as of January the 1st, I think I'm okay saying this, Jody, we will, on anybody's renewal, we will go ahead and drop to the $200 rate rather than the $300 rate so that you're not penalized if you happen to have your renewal coming up in January.
Thank you. The clarification, though, I was also seeking was that they can apply under the livery to be under the livery.
Correct.
And receive a permit for the 5-passenger or 4-passenger and 1 driver
Correct.
vehicle. Thank you. We would still like to have a taxi permit, and we would submit that there should be no caps, which there are presently by the formula that restricts the number of permits and when permits can be issued, and also the lottery system, which we understand to be unfair to those who have been in business for quite a while, because they're forced to compete with people that have newly come in, and just by chance the lotteries are issued, and there's only a certain net number of permits that are issued at that time. My clients basically need 260 permits. We were going to propose how those permits could be issued, but it's my understanding today that they can go and apply for the livery permits, and there is no restriction on
the numbers.
That
correct.
Number.
That is the added benefit.
So I will, in fact, review that with them, and we will proceed from there.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I generally take these in the order that that I received them, but I'm going to call Peggy Kelly out of order to have your opportunity to address us. He'll bring you a hand mic. Peggy, you don't need to go behind the podium. You can just stay out here. That's okay.
Am I hitting something? Unless you all just want to stand.
Perfect, right there.
First of all, I'd like to thank you. My name is Peggy Kelly. I live in Orlando. I'm disabled due to rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm confined to a wheelchair. I am glad to hear some of the changes you've made. We have to make it a level playing field. I did not have a level playing field 10 years ago. I had a teaching degree, and before I became disabled, I taught all over the world. Because of transportation issues here, I could not get a teaching job. The main rule is they want you there before the kids get there. And because of transportation, I couldn't do that. So now, instead of being a taxpayer, I live off of taxpayers. So this, I find really sad. But if you can make the right regulations, so we have accessible, and I wrote everything down, but I changed it after I heard some of the good things you've done. Good, safe transportation, other people will have the opportunities that I needed. Still being alive today, I still don't have the opportunities of anyone else. I look at all of you, I don't know if you have disabilities, but I assume you all have transportation here. I sat on 2 boards in Orlando, and sometimes I could not come because my transportation dilemmas. If I was to call Uber as of today, as I tried last week, they do not have wheelchair accessibility. I did call, I used somebody else's phone and credit card because I did not want to use a credit card. When the gentleman came, he was very kind, car looked in good shape, and he said he didn't know if they had any wheelchair accessible vehicles. We asked, well, can you make a phone call? There was nobody to call. He said they don't have an office in Orlando as of yet. If I had been going to work or an appointment, I would have made it. This is one reason I've been using the taxi service. Here's Yellow Cab. Number one, they have a certain number of wheelchair vehicles. They always arrive and they let me know they're on their way. I know I'm missing a lot I was going to say, but you've done such a good job with some of the changes. So there was no accessible ride. I don't mind being disabled. Disabled is just different. It's not bad or good. But it has really taken away a lot of my opportunities. Again, if any of you were in wheelchairs and didn't have the money for an accessible vehicle, you could just, call Uber. Hopefully you could call yours. They're very good. Let me look at this one minute. I know we have 5 minutes. I don't want to miss anything.
Take your time. You've got a couple minutes left.
Okay. I do appreciate that you're making sure that there is a national check because obviously people come here from other states. So if it was just within Florida, that would not be appropriate. I'm really hoping there won't be deregulation because then the companies would be allowed to only pick up the profitable clients, and I would probably be eliminated as soon as they heard the word wheelchair. This is the 21st century, and I really appreciate all that many people have done, including the City of Magic. You've really made a lot of wonderful things happen. But please be very careful with allowing companies that would devalue me, who's in a wheelchair. Because many of us, we're not better than anyone else. We just have wheels for legs. And we would like to have the same opportunities as any other human being. I hope I didn't miss anything, but I want to thank you for your time and what you're doing for the city and for the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Okay, the next several are Sael Perot, Matthew Bumgardner, and Andrew Bozone. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Sael Perot. I'm calling from 4530 South OBT. I'm going to speak behalf of Orlando United taxi drivers. Independent taxi drivers, they are living in the risk at the city of Orlando, at the taxis, because existence permits. We have so many problems. We can help our families because they charge them $1,000 a week plus charge mileages. Today, I'm here to say, please, independent taxi drivers, give me the message to give to the chambers at Orlando. We need the help to stop that. If you can please help us, that will be great. I am South Peru, have an humiliation from means transportation, more than one, every single minute, almost arrested. Any place I go drop off my people, our people, we cannot get it back by the security guard. That's a means thing. I'm sorry. We have to get out right away. If you don't get out, we get arrested by security guard or warning trespassing. We cannot go back at the property. I have so many friends who went in the jail for the taxi operating in Orlando. Please, we will appreciate that. It's number two. By the new, I'm sorry, by the new, library, we're going to have a problem. That problem is going to be continued for us. Court are living. We do have a meters. More than 2,000 independent taxi drivers on the I-Drive by the Convention Center, Orange County. We do a 13 meters. By the library, my experience in New York City, we know we might don't have a meter. If we don't have a meter, that's going to be waste problems for us. And number three, we're going to need acts after midnight when the event day. When we come in on the city, we can survive by the city taxi side instead. Please, I will appreciate that. Mayor, Commissioners, Chambers, thank you for this event. And God bless you, because that's the first time at the 25 years I got humiliation from means, star taxis, town country taxi permit existence. Please help us to get the permit. Independent taxi drivers, Orlando, living as a slave because means transportation and taxi existence. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Matthew Bumgardner, Andrew Bazone, Daniel Rich. Ed, or who's back? Somebody, little technical assistance here. Turn on the overhead.
My name is Matthew Bumgardner, 8131 Vineland Avenue, Orlando, Florida. I'm here to talk about a concern I have regarding insurance that I haven't had anybody address to where it's completely understood. I think what I've seen so far is the City Council is accepting the word of Uber as far as providing adequate insurance, and I think we might not be. I'm hoping that I'm wrong, and that's my purpose of here, is to prove myself wrong, or at least see that we have an issue and we try to fix it. I'm not going to read all the statutes. I just want to show you my line of thinking. Florida describes a for-hire vehicle as any vehicle for rent or hire as a means of transportation. So when you're Ubering or Lyfting, you're offering your vehicle as a vehicle for hire. That's what Florida says.
We're in 100% agreement there.
Okay. The Orlando Municipal Code basically says that your minimum requirements for vehicle for hire insurance are what the state of Florida says. And here you can see the Orlando Code section referencing the Florida statute. The next page is the Florida statute that says that the owner of a vehicle for hire shall have insurance in the amount of $125,000 bodily injury per person, $250,000 bodily injury per occurrence, $50,000 property damage, or $300,000 combined single limits. That's what the state of Florida requires, and by proxy, the city of Orlando. This is a City of Orlando vehicle permit application, which basically confirms that Orlando does require the state of Florida minimums. Uber divides their service model into 3 distinct periods. Period 1 is when the driver logs into the app, okay, and they're waiting for a fare. By definition, that makes them a vehicle for hire. The minute they log onto the app, they are a vehicle for hire. Period 2 is defined as the point from which a driver accepts a fare and travels to the passenger. That's period 2. Period 3 is when the passenger is actually in the vehicle. On the Uber website, they have an infographic that explains that. My first concern is that Uber claims that the driver's personal insurance policy is primary during period 1. In the state of Florida, there is not one insurance company that will cover an insured under a personal insurance policy from the moment they log on to the Uber app, period. I promise you that that's a fact. I've done the research. So what happens then is drivers during period 1 are covered by Uber's insurance. Uber's insurance during period 1, and it says right here, has limits of $50,000 bodily injury per person, $100,000 bodily injury per accident, $25,000 property damage. Those limits do not meet Florida's minimum requirements. That is my concern. I cannot find anything that proves that I'm not understanding something. What's even more concerning is during periods 2 and 3, when the driver is actually driving to a passenger or has a passenger, Uber only provides property damage coverage if the driver's personal insurance policy has comprehensive and collision, meaning if a driver has an older vehicle or chooses to not have comprehensive or collision during periods 2 and 3, Uber also does not provide property damage, which means that they are not in compliance during those periods as well. Again, I find it hard to believe, because I'm not an attorney, I'm just somebody who wants to drive for Uber legally, that I was able to find this. You can see down here, it confirms what I'm saying about during period 1 insurance, and it says that they are that they assure the driver that their personal coverage will cover them, but it won't. Where I think Orlando City Council needs to be concerned is that you could potentially pass this ordinance today, and 45 days from now, issue vehicle permits thinking that the driver and Uber are properly insured, and you're not. I could be dropping off at the airport, finish the fare, log back on. I'm now in period 1. I could hit a pedestrian, and I don't have the correct Florida minimums. So I'm here hoping that somebody can say that I'm wrong, here's where I'm wrong, or that we can address the issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and that's been an issue of negotiation and discussion as we've gone through this. We're aware of those 3 periods, but I thank you for bringing that to the public's attention as well. Commissioner Ortiz and then Commissioner Stewart. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Baumgartner, thank you for bringing that up. Is the person in charge of vehicle for hire? I would imagine that before they issue a permit, they will ascertain that the people are complying with Florida statute in terms of the insurance. Am I correct on that? So if they're not meeting those particular requirements of the insurance, which was the ones that Mr. Baumgartner showed us, they will not be issued, the permits.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
They will deny the,
Mr. Baumgartner, that answers your question.
Commissioner Stewart?
Yeah, along the same lines, I guess probably there's really two issues here that Matthew has brought up. The first issue is those who are allowed by permit to pick up in the city of Orlando will have commercial-grade insurance as required by the state of Florida.
yes, I believe.
And they will
that's
prove
not
that to
changed.
us based upon that information.
We would have a copy of the actual insurance.
Correct. Those those Uber drivers or Lyft drivers who do not have that insurance coverage or are not permitted within the city of Orlando could pick up outside the city, in which case there needs to be an education to the user as that, but the city of Orlando is not liable because they are acting illegally.
Correct. It's the county currently does not have a ordinance that prevents that. Correct. Yes.
Right. So an Uber driver who picks up in Orlando has got a different level of insurance than an Uber driver who may not pick up in Orlando, but still may be licensed by Uber.
Has a different
It
requirement.
would be difficult to do
requirement.
that,
Yeah,
but
different
yes.
requirement.
But quite honestly, Commissioner, they still fit the definition of a vehicle for hire under the state code, which requires that level of insurance.
No, I agree completely. It just we can't we can't control the world. We control those who pick up here. So, Matthew, you're exactly correct, and that's our ordinance is going to cover those people that are picked up in the city of Orlando, as opposed to those who are working for Uber outside the city of Orlando, which we cannot control. Because that's really kind of the issues we raised last time with the liability issues and the insurance issues.
My main concern is that a lot of the people who are doing this think that their personal insurance policy is all that they need, and that this ordinance is going to allow them to pick up in Orlando. What I'm understanding is that if they try to go get a permit with their personal insurance, you're going to deny it because they do not. Okay. No, I'm 100% clear.
We're not even enhancing anything. We're just following state law, and that's what the state law is. So whether they have a permit with the city of Orlando or they're simply operating out in unincorporated Orange County, they're supposed to have that level of coverage because, as you pointed out, the definition of vehicle for hire is somebody that's compensated for transporting passengers.
Right. So unless a driver has their own commercial insurance policy, Uber's Period 1 insurance is not good enough for you, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see. Andrew Bazone, Daniel Rich, and Olsber Zerker. Is Andrew Bazone here?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I want to waive my right. You just put the hammer on the nail with the spoken.
You are on, Andrew, you are on the insurance issue as well? Okay, thank you. Daniel Rich?
Yeah, I want to waive my time and I support it.
You support the ordinance? Olsber Zerker? Narcius Sincere? Mr. Sincere?
Good afternoon, Commissioner and Mayor Dyer. My name is Reverend Sincere. I'm getting almost 20 years operating in the taxi industry in Orlando, in the city of Orlando. I'm permit for a vehicle for hire. I think everybody know me. And then I never get chance. Almost 20 years, I'm fight for getting a taxi permit. As a mayor, I have it. And my concern today, I was asked for equal opportunity to work. Because I got the permit only for vehicle for hire, but I can't have it for taxi. I want to know why. Because I'm apply everything in the city of Orlando, vehicle for hire asked for. So that's why we're there. We got a lawyer represent us. We want a permit for taxi as an all company to operate not only for hire, a vehicle for hire, but I need for taxi. Thank you. That's what I want to say.
Thank you. Nathaniel Wells, Joe Dagger, Sean Hawley. Nathaniel Wells.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I stand in support of Nathaniel Wells, 173 Autumn Breezeway. Stand in support of Lyft to remember that, of course, the concerns have been raised for insurance. However, my concern, of course, is for the fairness between all those that are for vehicle for hire, understanding that Lyft, of course, supports regulation, but I think it was at the last meeting that we mentioned that it was sort of like a square fitting into a circle hole, but because there is no ordinance that actually that was created beforehand, but to try to bring some type of resolve to that, I would stand to ask just a concern as far as the actual permitting process. Will the ordinance actually require each driver individually to apply, or are we going to, in the aspect of our companies, actually represent us in that aspect?
It'll require each driver, but we are looking at being able to do that online. We don't have that capability yet because we're just getting into this. So right now you'd have to come to City Hall, but we had a discussion with your company and with Uber today about whether we might be able to do that, provide that service online.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, Joe Dagger. Joe will be followed by Sean Hawley and then Eric Strong.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time and the effort to resolve this very important issue. My name is Joe Dagger. I live at 5425 Shingle Creek Drive. I own Ace Luxury Transportation, doing business as Ace. I am also on the board of directors of the Greater Orlando Limousine Association. I started the business driving for Town and Country starting in 1985. Almost 30 years now. I started my business and got permitted through the Vehicle for Hire in 1990 as Florida Town Car Service. I realized that name was kind of limiting, so I had to change the company name so I could accommodate different type of vehicles, so I changed it to Ace Luxury Transportation starting in 1993. So I've been permitted through the city for almost 25 years now. In 2012, I called to renew one of my van's permits, and I was told that I needed to remove the word luxury in the company name after 20 years of renewal under the same name without any question. They cited the reason was the van was not a luxury van, even though we had luxury vehicles in the fleet, but they didn't consider the van as a luxury van. This really created a hardship on myself and a lot of other companies in the industry. I had to change the company name after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars promoting the original name for over 20 years. I had to send 8 vans to a signage place to change the name on the sides, both sides of the vehicles, and the front as well. The process took at least about a week to accomplish. It cost me thousands of dollars in expenses and lost revenue. But did I complain to the city, to Vehicle for Hire? Not a word. I did share my grievances with the fellow members of the association. They had the same issues as well. But guess what? We've been going by the book for years, for decades. I went on with my business, serving my clients the best way I could shortly thereafter. The moral of my story is it took sweat, blood, and tears to get to where I am right now, today, while at the same time I abided by the Vehicle for Hire rules and regulations. I have no problem permitting TNCs, no problem permitting them to operate. It is the spirit of the, of the enterprise, of the free enterprise in this country that we permit them to operate. But the key word here is permit. Permit them to operate. They need to be permitted through the regulating body of our industry, which is the Vehicle for Hire section of the City of Orlando. They must abide by the same rules and regulations as we have done for decades. What sets this great country of ours apart from most of the rest of the world is we have to live by the rule of the law. Okay? Without law enforcement, the police, the sheriff, and other agencies, anarchy would be the rule of the law, not a civilized society. I think the analogy here is not different when it comes to permitting TNCs. As our association president, Mr. Cliff Wright, suggested last week, buildings have to be permitted to be built. Why? Because it directly impacts the safety and well-being of our community. This is no different. The transportation industry is a regulated industry, and regulated for some very compelling reasons. The safety of the general public. It is also to protect the city and this council members from any future liability that may arise from lack of regulation. And the obvious reason, the oversight over the industry, making sure we operate in a safe and ethical manner, and protecting the reputation of our whole area as a top destination for tourists from all over the world. Whatever ordinance you pass, please be mindful that an ordinance or an amendment to Chapter 55 must be coupled with strict enforcement to apply it. Please put some teeth into your ordinance and allocate the proper resources to implement it. Otherwise, all you're passing is nothing but air. Okay, I want to thank you for protecting our industry and ensuring that we live in a city where the safety, well-being, and quality of life is maintained through your due diligence for all citizens of this community to enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sean Hawley. Sean waives his time and supports the ordinance. Eric Strong. Eric, you out there? Jordan Stein.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. I'd like to cede my time to my colleague, Mike Masterman.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for your time today. And Mayor, I want to thank you and your team for the collaborative process that we've gone through the last few months, and we've come a long way the last week. What I intend to do is frame a little bit around how we see ourselves in the marketplace, and then touch on some of the issues that we still have with the revised ordinance.
Did you state your name?
Oh, sorry about that. Mike Masterman. I'm a Director of Government Relations at Lyft. My address is 240 Cumberland Street, San Francisco, California, 94114. I want to first and foremost differentiate ourselves from others in the marketplace. There are those who are using technology to mimic traditional taxi or black car services. We don't do that at all. We are a pure peer-to-peer mobile-based ride-sharing company. What we do is, utilizing our technology, we link drivers who go through a rigorous vetting process, right, rigorous driving background checks and criminal background checks, to passengers. Our drivers are on the road 10 hours a week or less, the vast majority of them. These are part-time drivers. These are not professional drivers. Here in Orlando, the drivers are tech entrepreneurs, they're students, they're working families, they're service providers, all right? They're not professional folks. And the passengers are people who are looking for safe, affordable, reliable methods of transportation. They're looking for alternative forms of transportation, in addition to the transport options that they're using. So one thing I want to make very, very clear to all of you here is that Lyft, we see ourselves as a complement to the existing transportation infrastructure. We want to complement car sharing and bike sharing and public transport. And indeed, we want to complement taxis. We think taxis play a critical role in the transport ecosystem. What we're asking for is for ride sharing to be able to compete in that transportation ecosystem. And as a valid member of that ecosystem, we want to make sure that we have those rigid trust and safety standards that you were all talking about. Trust and safety is absolutely paramount to us as a company. Look, if we didn't have these rigid trust and safety standards, consumers wouldn't feel safe getting in our cars. That's why we have an entire team dedicated to trust and safety. Right? These are folks in our offices who are working 24/7 to answer calls, answer emails, right? Ensure that there's accountability. That's why after each ride, drivers are rating passengers and passengers are rating drivers. If a driver falls below 4.6 out of 5 rating, they're off-boarded. Our trust and safety team is going to have a call with that passenger who is in that car and understand exactly what happened. Was there an issue with the vehicle? Was there an issue with the way they were treated? And again, passengers get rated by drivers as well. If a passenger falls below that 4.6 out of 5 rating, they're off-boarded. Our trust and safety team wants to know what happened. Was there an assault issue? Were they disrespected? We are a community-based organization. And it's our vision that everyone ultimately would be on a Lyft-like platform. So while we appreciate the efforts that have gone forward on this ordinance, and let me be clear, I think you guys have made a lot of headway towards allowing for innovative products such as Lyft to be able to enter the marketplace. We still have a few issues that would make it very hard for us to operate. And remember, because our drivers are these part-time folks, the purely peer-to-peer model is susceptible to more administrative burdens than others would be. So first off, the minimum fare issue, while we appreciate the fact that it's been reduced, we still have issues with it. Our model is based on dynamic pricing, and that means that sometimes the price is going to be below the contemplated minimum fare, sometimes it'll be above the contemplated minimum fare. So as an example, right now in San Francisco, we're piloting something called Lyftline. What Lyftline is it's sort of ride-sharing 2.0. It allows a driver who has a Lyft passenger in the car to pick another Lyft passenger up if they're on the same route. When they do that, everyone's fares are reduced 60%. Remember, what we're trying to do is fill those empty seats in the car, right? We're competing with single occupancy vehicles. We're trying to make sure that people have an option besides driving by themselves on the road. So the minimum fare continues to be an issue for us. The next is the licensing. And on the fee, again, we appreciate you coming down to $250. And I think this is an area where, while we talk about leveling the playing field, and we want to level the playing field where we can, this is an area where a new playing field really is required. And this is an area where we want to work with you because we want to be able to make the city whole. We know that the vehicle for hire folks are going to have enforcement responsibilities here, and we know that there's going to be an increased cost in that. But we believe there are models we can look at, whether it's paying on a per-ride basis or whether it's paying on an annual basis, where we can look at the number of drivers on the road and the number of rides they've done, and come up with a better pricing model there. As it stands right now, that $250 fee would be incredibly burdensome for a company such as ours to be able to compete. On the licensing process, the good news is that we would love to work with you and your team to get information of our drivers who have gone through that background check process so that you know exactly who's on the road. And so that we can then be accountable as a company to you, saying that we've gone through these rigorous background checks, where, by the way, we do use people's social security numbers and whatnot. But you, as a city, would have the comfort level knowing exactly who's on the road. And the thing is that we're not quite there yet from a process perspective. Mayor, you talked about potentially being able to utilize technology so that our drivers don't have to come in person. That's something that we want to continue working with you and your team on so that we can, again, reduce those frictions but ensure that we have the utmost rigorous safety standards and accountability mechanisms for you all in the city to be able to enforce the drivers on the road. And let me just say one last thing on that. When we onboard drivers, they effectively, before they're on the road, have an electronic license. It's their driver profile. So if they get pulled over, the police officer can see on their app exactly the way they've been onboarded. It shows their name, it shows their car, it has a picture of them, it has a picture of their car, it has a picture of their license plate. That officer would be able to match that, right, with what they're seeing in person. So I want to make sure that you all understand how we view the individual licensing. And the last point I want to make is this. That's that, we would love for you to delay this vote. We think that we're very close. If we had a few more weeks to work out some of these kinks, we think we really, really can get to a place that would allow us to operate in a more effective manner. As it stands right now, the fact is we may not be able to operate here, and we want to. And if this vote does pass, what I can tell you is that we are going to continue to collaborate with you all so that we can get to a ride-sharing ordinance that wouldn't phase us out of the city.
Mike, and as we talked about earlier today, the effective date is not till February the 1st, and we intend to spend the next 6 weeks seeing if there are additional things that we can do to accommodate you. But right now, we feel pretty comfortable with where we're at, but we're open, and we know this is evolving technology, and probably whatever the model looks like today is going to look different a year from now. So we're doing the best we can to work both with you and the public.
Got it. And Mayor, we really appreciate that. Look, we want to do business in Orlando. We want to do business in the right way. We want to continue collaborating with you all. That's the ethos of this company, and we look forward to doing just that.
Commissioner Sheehan?
Yeah, I had a question, Mr. Masterman. We just read the Florida statutes which define a transportation company, and you're saying that, and you actually even say that you have riders and drivers, but then you want them to be defined as friends somehow. So how can you go there? I mean, if it's clearly the Florida statutes define what this is, and you all are saying, well, we're just friends, but then you actually call them riders and drivers, so I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I call them riders and drivers for simplicity's sake. I mean, the fact that...
You think they're just friends?
Well, the way that our long-term vision of the company is that we'd all be servicing our neighbors and friends, absolutely. Instead of driving in a car by yourself, you'd flip on your Lyft app and see that your neighbor is going the exact same direction. You'd be able to share a ride with them and basically pay for the cost of gas. That's the vision. That's the dynamic way of thinking about ride sharing.
But the minute you exchange money, that's what I mean. If you had an innovative carpool app, that would be one thing. But you are actually charging people, and that's what puts you in that other arena.
Right. No, and look, we appreciate that, and we've made some decisions. Like our decision to provide $1 million of insurance anytime a consumer is involved, that acknowledge that there is a level of commercial activity that happens when a driver is going to pick up a passenger and when a passenger is involved. That being said, I mean, again, the long-term vision of this isn't that there's people cruising around looking for rides. The long-term vision is that everyone would be able to dynamically ride share, and the money that changes hands is money really to cover gas and maybe buy your friend a cup of coffee for giving you a ride to work.
That's all I had, Mayor.
One question before I get to you guys. Do you charge your drivers to join or for use of your app?
Absolutely not. No, the way that our pricing system works is that 80% of all the money that's made through the ride stays here in Orlando. 20% goes back to the company to service the app.
Okay. Commissioner Stewart, then Commissioner Ortiz.
Yeah, apparently I've been classified as being the hard nose about this, so let me make sure that we're on the same page. Tell me again what you mean by 80% stays here in Orlando. You mean that the driver gets 80% of the money?
Yeah, correct.
So a fee is charged, and as much as you guys want to think that you are on the cutting edge of technology, you simply are not. In the area that the state has decided that if you collect money to move somebody, you are not a cab or a luxury. You are a vehicle for hire.
Right.
And back to what Commissioner Sheehan has said, you're a vehicle for hire. So I don't quite get the innovative delivery service of what you're doing. Is really cool, but you're still a vehicle for hire. There's still a core of what's required in the state of Florida to accomplish this. It's not Orlando, but the state of Florida. We're just confirming that information is here.
So I beg your pardon for interrupting. I would say that we have to charge a fee in order to incentivize ride sharing, right? Like in our view, if you don't charge a fee, then like how will the person be incentivized to pick somebody else up? So that's why we do it. I mean, that's essentially how we will get to the vision that Mike's described.
Go ahead.
I was going to make one last point, and that's it. Look, I mean, we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole as well, right? And it's not just in the state of Florida. It's all over the country. It's all over the world with other companies. And that's why we're trying to think about creating this new playing field by defining transportation network companies, which may exist under the Vehicle for Hire code, but have to abide by a different set of rules and standards, acknowledging that these aren't professional drivers. These aren't drivers on the road 40, 50, 60 hours a week. These are people who may be driving 1 hour a week, 5 hours a week, 1 hour a month, an hour a year. In fact, I mean, this past summer we had a number of teachers who were drivers for Lyft, and now they're not driving at all. Maybe they'll drive an hour a month. Maybe they won't drive till next summer. We won't know. But that being said, we understand that we want regulation, and we want to make sure that there are these rigid consumer safety standards in place.
I understand, and I apologize, but I kind of do this kind of regularly because I kind of decided to read these. When we're dealing with public safety, there's an issue about the public safety portion of this. In your terms and conditions, so Jordan, I didn't get your email about this, but I did find the terms and conditions for Lyft. So let me kind of just share with you that real briefly, because I want the consumers to know what you say about what you just said is inconsistent with what your terms and conditions are. Lyft does not provide transportation services. You just called them our drivers. They aren't your drivers. They're your subcontractor. So somebody who picks up somebody in Orlando, Florida, actually should pay whatever the state requires. It has nothing to do with Lyft. You just choose to connect the two a different way and to take 20% of the money. And that's pretty simple, and that's innovative, and that's really kind of cool. And Lyft is not a transportation carrier. It is up to the driver or the vehicle operator to decide whether or not they will offer a ride to a driver contacted through the Lyft platform. It's up to the rider to decide whether or not to accept the ride from the driver contacted through the Lyft platform. Any decision by the user to offer or accept transportation once such user is matched to the Lyft platform is a decision made at the user's sole discretion. Lyft offers information and a method to connect drivers and riders to each other, but does not intend to provide transportation services. You keep calling them your drivers. They aren't your drivers. And has no responsibility or liability for any transportation services voluntarily provided to any rider by any driver using the Lyft app. The question I would say, in a sense, is why are you here? It shouldn't matter to you, because if you carry somebody in the state of Florida, you're going to have commercial grade insurance, and if you pick them up in Orlando, Orlando's going to prove that. I understand it's innovative in delivery of technology, but if you're charging a fare, even if it's a donation as a fare, you have some issues with the state of Florida. You haven't got issues with the city of Orlando. We're just proving it.
So first let me tell you why I'm here. I'm here because drivers who are using our platform, who are doing the right thing, we want to make sure that we have rules and regulations in place here in Orlando to protect them as well as the public at large. And that's why we're here. And whether we call them drivers or people who are using our platform to ride share, I think we're talking about semantics here. And I appreciate what you're saying at the state level.
It's not, pardon me, I apologize. It's not semantics. There's a significant difference between an employee and a subcontractor.
Sure.
So you say our drivers, I hear subcontractors, and people that are listening hear your employees. So I'd like to have you use one of those two terms when you talk about them, so that we're on the same level playing field.
Sure, and that's correct. They are 1099. They are independent contractors. They are not our employees. In fact, they choose when they want to drive and when they don't want to drive. That's what makes the dynamic usage of ride sharing what it is, right? I mean, slug lines in Virginia and other types of carpooling methods have been trying to do that for years. What's great about Lyft is that, if someone wants to pick someone up, they can. And if they want to leave work at 5:30 or 6:30 or 7:30 and try to get a ride, they can. And that's what makes this technology unique. And let me tell you, we are going to be working on a statewide level. But right now, here today, you all have an opportunity as a city to codify some of these standards around ride sharing. And what I was trying to articulate to you is that, these independent contractors, as you say, are doing the right thing, and we want to make sure that they're able to flourish and that, frankly, ride sharing is able to flourish here in Orlando.
Yeah. And I apologize, but let me excuse the last little piece. You prefer to call it ride sharing. We prefer to call it vehicle for hire. That's where we have a difference in semantics. See, the challenge I have with new technology is that people are trying to apply new definitions to old terms. You call it ride share, you call it drivers. We call them subcontractors and vehicle for hire, because we have a safety obligation that we have to take. And frankly, from what I read on the internet, people aren't real impressed with Lyft's safety stuff. That's okay. In Orlando, we're going to confirm it. Outside of Orlando, whatever they do is whatever they do. And whatever you're happy with, that's fine. But in Orlando, you're going to come and prove commercial insurance to our vehicle for hire. Or you're not going to pick up in Orlando. That's kind of the simple task to do. And that's the obligation. I think the mayor spoke very strongly about it, but that's the obligation we have, the public safety in here, regardless of the electronic platform that you're trying to use. But I'm looking at your stuff, and you basically are saying, I'm washing my hands of this, guys. And then you say, but we have $1 million insurance coverage, but your insurance coverage says you have no responsibility. Again, I go back and ask the same question I asked to the Uber representative last time. Do you see an inconsistency when you say you have $1 million coverage, but your own terms and conditions that I would agree to actually say you have no liability in the issue?
So, look, I'm happy to dig in on the terms of service with you offline. We could have a conversation about that. I'm happy to help set that up. From our perspective, anytime a consumer is involved in the ride, anytime a passenger is being picked up or a passenger is in the vehicle, our insurance drops down and becomes the primary insurance. And again, I'm more than happy to work with you and your team on that, making sure that our terms and service clarify that. And on the definition piece, look, we're creating a whole new definition here. We're creating a definition around transportation network companies. And indeed, the trust and safety issue around that is paramount to the success of this new industry. And that's why we want to codify these safety standards so that we do everything in our power to mitigate anything from happening here in Orlando, whether it's to a person who lives here in Orlando or the 59 million visitors that come. And we welcome that opportunity to put that to the test.
I'm not trying to be hard-nosed, but I'm reading your terms and conditions back to you. And I think I went to the University of Florida, so I know I can read. Okay, lighten up. Lighten up. But I'm reading your terms. And so your terms don't say any place in your insurance that you have $1 million policy on the driver. It just says you have no responsibility. And because if you'd like, I'll take a moment and read your entire insurance. This is and so I mean, it's the same issue we had a little bit with Uber. The marketing arm is getting ahead of the terms and conditions, but when it gets in front of a judge, it's the terms and conditions. And you have done everything you can to protect yourself from any of these kinds of lawsuits. But the marketing arm says, look, I want to do the right thing. I think that that's probably okay. It's just not consistent. I'd like them to be consistent, and your own figures aren't, your own words aren't consistent to me.
Commissioner, sir, can we do this? Tell me if this would work. I'll go back. I'll have a conversation with our folks internally, and we'd like to get back to you on that as soon as possible.
I was hoping you and Commissioner Stewart would just go get a beer after this and hash it all out.
I'm sorry, I won't go so long so we have time to get one.
Okay, Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Stewart, that was pretty doggone good. That goes. I'm going to piggyback on that and go back to my argument last week when I was addressing the audience. Those guys are involved in this. They really need to make sure that they know what they're signing on to. Look at their contract. Mr. Masterman, is that the last name? That's a pretty cool last name, Masterman.
Thank you.
We need to, bring some
Stein,
relief.
Stein's pretty cool.
I know Commissioner Stewart put you through a lot of stress there.
How about my collar? Come on.
So, you mentioned your drivers are not professional drivers and they're mainly part-time, right? Who regulates that part-time?
Sorry, what do you mean? Who regulates the number of hours?
So they're part-time, exactly. So is that at will? So they could be full-time if they want to?
Drivers are enabled, are allowed to drive as much as they like, and we find that people use the platform mostly for part-time. I mean, this really is not meant to be a full-time job. This is really meant to be something that fits into your hour or half an hour sometime in the day.
You can't really make that statement because you don't control, you don't regulate that, do you?
No, we don't control it, but certainly based on the data we've seen in the cities we operate in, most people use this as on a part-time basis.
Okay. The reason I'm saying that is it goes back also to the insurance issue. You're talking about part-time they're not really part-time, so these guys are at risk out there, not really being covered by that alleged insurance that they think they have. So there's quite a few things we need to address here, don't we?
So look, Commissioner, on the insurance piece, and I just want to make sure we are crystal clear on this, because we made a business decision this past summer to switch from excess liability insurance in periods 2 and 3, what the previous gentleman was talking about, to become the primary insurance provider during those 2 periods. So anytime a driver or an independent contractor is going to pick up a passenger, or anytime a passenger is in that vehicle, Lyft's insurance becomes the primary insurance and provides up to $1 million of coverage.
But it's not in your contract as such.
I will go back and make sure our terms, I'll go back and check our terms and conditions, but I can give you the assurance here on the record that we provide that insurance, and we will provide you that certificate of insurance so that you have that clarity as well.
And further to my colleague's point, there are certainly examples in the unfortunate situation in which a driver with Lyft, not Lyft's drivers, have had an accident and our insurance has kicked in.
Sure.
So
Okay.
drivers
Fair enough. Thanks a lot.
okay.
Appreciate it.
Commissioner Hill.
Yes, sir, and that was my concern about the $1 million coverage, because all the while we've been told that from the time of accepting the call to drop off, that those drivers were covered. And I think all of us here are concerned about the consumer's safety as well as these drivers, as you said, are part-time drivers, and many who are looking for extra income. If something happened to them, it can destroy their lives and their family lives. And we want to make sure that we protect these drivers in our city and also our residents and consumers and visitors. So I'm really concerned about that, and hopefully you will go back to your company and assure us that what you're telling us for at least the last few meetings and council meetings, that this is certain. I'm concerned, just like Commissioner Stewart. You're telling us these things, and we want to believe you. But if it's not in writing, it's just like charting. It's not so. So we want to make sure that, and I'm a little bit more concerned also about our background checks and how you're doing that. I hear you say that we check socials. That's fine. But I feel safer with fingerprinting. Do you have a mechanism where we are fingerprinting everyone? Because we have to do it here at the city. We have to do it in the medical field. We have to do it. Yes, fingerprinting is the standard because we know who that is by a fingerprint. That's something you can't avoid when you're being arrested or whatever you're doing. Unfortunately, we can get someone's Social Security card. We can get their number. You can steal those things, but you can't steal a fingerprint. And I just want to make sure that our consumers are safe, our tourists are safe, and that level 2 background check. How are you doing those things? Hopefully it's not just with a social.
So, well, first off, let me allay your fears. We care about the safety of passengers, drivers, citizens here of Orlando, and travel and tourists as well. I mean, again, it is the foundation of our business. It's part of the ethos of our community-based ride-sharing platform, right? Our vision, it wouldn't work if people didn't feel safe doing it. And so we want to allay any of those fears. We will get you all the proper documentation to be able to show you that we're not just providing words here, that we actually are providing action.
You didn't answer my question. How are you doing it?
So on the background checks, we have a company called Sterling Backcheck that does our background checks for us. And they don't go back just 5 years, they go back 7 years. And we're talking about criminal background checks, we're talking about city, state, national background checks, and then we're talking about driving record checks. And our driving record checks are so rigorous such that if you had 3 moving violations in the last 3 years, you wouldn't be able to pass our background checks. So the vast majority of people who actually apply to be Lyft drivers do not actually pass that initial background check process. And to your question on fingerprints, what we found is that threshold, that level, takes it one step a little too far. We have made a business decision that the level of background checks we have in place right now with Sterling meets the threshold for our independent contractors and meets the public safety threshold. And those background checks have been codified in California and Colorado, Virginia, and jurisdictions across the country. And the fingerprinting, what we found is just a bit too onerous and cumbersome, and for people again who are maybe doing rides an hour a week, an hour a month, maybe an hour a year, we found that level is just a little too onerous.
Sir, I would have to disagree when you say an hour. Do you know what can happen in a matter of seconds? Okay, so that's inexcusable, that comment there for me. Because soon as our tourists or our citizens enter that car, in a twinkling of an eye, anything can happen. So I would think that's something that we might have to consider is these fingerprints. I'm not comfortable just with your word and a social security number and an ID.
Yeah, so no, I appreciate that. And again, we'll be more than happy to provide you more information on the background check process so you can see exactly what's been checked.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ash El Mahdi and Mary El Mahdi.
Good evening. My name is Ash Al-Mahdi. I serve at the board of Great Orlando Limousine Association as the secretary. I'm a board member of National Limo Association as well as the Florida Limo Association. Myself and my fellow on the board, we have been following this since May when we were in Tallahassee by Senator Grant, and the bill have been put to sleep. I'm not surprised seeing the representative from the two sides. When you just ask him the straight questions, it's always to be the turnaround. That's their best thing coming back. We'll be more happy than to work with you. Let's call us later. We'll talk to you. As if until now, our Florida Limo Association, one of our board members, trying to work with them. We're not against them. We're not against the technology, but how the way this technology is going. Safety, our big issue. That's what it's one big thing. The whole thing is about safety, your insurance. Mr. Tony, Commissioner Tony, last week he did say the same thing. He talked to the driver. Please do look at that definition of the insurance. Don't ask your company. Go and seek for a legal advisor, because you open that door wide open, and when the fire is going to happen, the grass is not going to be green. It's going to be brown. That the point that this ground is not going to ever going to have, you're going to grow any grass in it anymore, because you leave yourself in a big issue. I understand. Don't look at us like we're anti-Uber or anti-Lyft. No, we're not. Look at people giving you advice. We're trying to advise you. We're not trying to discourage you for what you're doing. I listened to Mr. Commissioner Stewart last year too, when he was telling us about my child as your kids. You know, you have a kid's discipline, and you're trying to direct him to the right way, to give him the chance. You try to work with him, and as you all did a great job. You're trying to work with them. But that particular kids have a win of $50 billion, and he thinks that he's going to come and rule your home. No, he's not going to rule my house. That's my house. Take your money and go somewhere else with it. Because you're not going to change our value, our safety, our main concern about my house or my family. I'm going to kick you out. I'm sorry. Play by the rules. Be by the rules. $500. It's not a lot of money to start up a business. When I started this business years ago, 10 years ago, I used to work with Mears Company. I used to work with the Star Company. I left the two company in the good term. But I see the definition that I'm an entrepreneur. I want to have my own thing, my own company. I start my own company. It cost me more than $500. $25 for the permit. The permit, we own the permit. As a driver, we own the permit. So that's my driver license. When I can go anywhere with it, I can work with different company with it. The funny thing about the $500 was the two companies they're fussing about. I'm sorry, excuse my language, but when Uber article had happened, 2-3 months ago, when the police, they give him a ticket everywhere, they come up strongly and say, okay, they give him a ticket, we're going to give him $500-600 to pull their cars out. Common sense, if you're a business mind, why I'm going to spend a $2,000, $3,000 at the same guy to try to bill him out at the same time, pay the $500 and make him legal? Isn't that be easy? Isn't it be safer? We feel like we're beating the bushes, and this is over and over and over with people that are just being bullied about what we're trying to tell them. It's a one thing, be legal, be safe. They're being kicked out of Spain, they're being kicked out of Germany, they're being kicked out of every country, and this momentum is going down for Uber. I'm just going to tell you guys here, and Mr. Mayors, by 2015, and I already spoke to, I mentioned a little bit to the city of Orlando, we have a new apps companies coming in, and those companies coming in to play by the rules. Their main thing is to hire illegal drivers, which is going to be a taxi cabs or even it's going to be black cars or livery cars. They're going to be knocking your door here probably by January. They're going to be starting knocking the door of the city of Orlando, and I appreciate if you can give them a chance to talk to you. You will like what they're coming up with as a result for our industry not to go through this anymore. Thank you again for your time, and I appreciate all you guys' help, and appreciate what you did for us so far.
Thank you. Mary Almalde.
I'm going to try to make it as brief as possible. I'm Mary Almaty off of Ribbon Falls Parkway, and I don't come to you just as a business owner. This is my husband. Yes, we own that business together. I come to you as a woman, a mother, and a wife, and I have kind of sat behind the scenes. I'm pretty passionate about it, but I've sat behind the scenes so many times and just listened to everything that's being said. So I have a couple things on this mama's mind that I would like to bring forth. And to me, I'm a teacher by trade. My dad teaches teachers to be teachers. I was kind of brought up that way. So to me, common sense might be different than someone else's common sense. My kids have found that out. Common sense tells you if you put a human being in your car and you take them from point A to point B and you are compensated for it, that you are in the transportation business or the vehicle for hire business. Common sense tells you that. I don't understand how we have so many people in Orlando without common sense. And I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody, but that's the way I see it. In the transportation industry, there have always been and always will be regulations, whether we like it or not. Do I like all the regulations? Do I follow them? Yes, I do. We have had to make many, many sacrifices as a family, as a couple, as human beings, to make sure that our company is being run legally, instead of trying to skirt the issue and trying to call it something else. Let's take, for instance, little short story. We had a situation where we were, some of our guests were royal family from another country with bodyguards. We're driving along. The driver is yelled at by the bodyguard and asked, "Why are you stopping at the red lights?" Okay, common sense tells you stop at a red light, right? Those are the laws of the land. I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what was said, and I know they probably were a little bit in shock because I don't know where these bodyguards come from. But in America, the law is you stop at a red light. Unless you have a police escort to make it through that light, you stop. And if you don't, you'll be escorted to the curb on the other side of the light, most likely. It's the same here. Those laws are made to prevent chaos from happening. The city is trying, the way I see it, and I commend them, and I am in total agreement with what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is make laws that fit everybody's situation so that everybody is legal and we don't have that chaos. Because right now, sometimes it seems pretty chaotic. The insurance issue, I'm sorry. I'm a mom. I love my kids. I have 4 of them, 2 teenagers, 2 toddlers. They keep me pretty darn busy. I wouldn't put one of them in a Lyft car or an Uber car right now because I find the insurance situation's very sketchy, and I find the background checks very sketchy. I know what I've had to go through. I know what we pay for insurance. And something that I would like to put out there just to ask you, why is it you pick up human beings, I pick up human beings? Why is it that the human beings that I pick up are more valuable and more important than yours? If you carried that insurance, you would show them your value. You would show them their value. They're as valuable as my customers. As I said, I don't want to keep beating the same horse over and over and over again, but that's from this mama's heart, and this mama is all about safety. And when I looked at that insurance situation, you guys really have got to come up with a better answer, and skirting the answer isn't going to work for us moms. And mothers are being educated about this. I've talked to many of them, and they're not being educated by me. I educate my 4 children. I homeschool. I'm a very busy mom. Very busy. The public's being educated. And you guys have to understand, you can't be sketchy and expect for us moms to feel safe, because we don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Reynolds, then Pat Huggins, and then Al. Okay, Michael Reynolds.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm Michael Reynolds from Melbourne, Florida. I'm a Lyft user, a person who picks up people using the Lyft platform. I live in Melbourne, but I commute here for school, so I am one of those part-time users. I have a part-time job back home as well, and I just like to keep using it. I'd like it to be easily accessible for us drivers. I'd also like everyone to be safe. I'm under the impression that I am under the insurance in periods 2 and 3, so I hope that that is actually true, and that we can continue using this platform, because it's been really great for me and great for my passengers. I'll share a short little story with you. Someone that I picked up just last week. She had missed her bus to work, and she didn't have a car. So she just started her job like a couple weeks ago, and she didn't want to be late. So she used Lyft, and I picked her up, got her there with time to spare, and we had a great conversation along the 25-minute drive. I learned about what she was doing with her life. She learned about what I was doing with my life. We bumped fists, just like the culture of Lyft has, encouraged us to do. She sat in the front seat, and I'd hope to continue doing that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Huggins. All right, Al.
Al Castagna, Sand Pines, 6017 Sand Pines, Orlando, Florida. Went along, everything you said today was very good as far as changing the rules. I'm fine with the prices you're going with. I don't care about that. But I'm still a couple things that I'm not happy with. You said there's not going to be any signage on the cars. Now, all of my cars and all of the delivery cars in the city have licenses on them. And they have a license plate on the front that verifies what company they're with. You're saying that they don't have to have anything. That I don't agree with. I mean, we got to have some kind of...
No, we have identification.
Okay, the way you had said it originally was no identification.
No.
Okay, so there is identification. All right, and again, I know we've been hitting this like a dead horse, but the insurance, I brought this up last week, and it is true. You check with any insurance agency. When I filed for my insurance this year for one of my divisions, that was one of the questions they asked me. Do you drive for those companies? I said, what the hell is this all about? And he said, I'm sorry, but you're the first one we have to ask. He said, they just put it in. So for commercial insurance, they're telling me if I do that, I can't have insurance. And then I know the Lyft is saying they have $1 million insurance. I have to bring my insurance policy with the cars listed, not just something I picked off the wall that says I have $1 million insurance. each one of my cars is listed on the insurance policy. So, I mean, if Liz wants to do that, that's fine. I don't see anything wrong with that. And back with the, I know Miss Patty had the thing was too much money for the cars. Again, if Lyft is bringing these people in here, they're not as big as the other agency, which is $40 billion, but $500 for the company. Why can't they pay the damn thing and let the drivers come in under them? They're contract drivers, so that would cover that for all the drivers. But other than that, not too much more. The insurance was the main thing. I don't care. I don't mind them coming in the market, but follow the same rules that we have to follow. We have our background checks. We have everything else going. We have insurance on the guys. Let them do the same thing. Fine, then they can come in the area. But that's one thing I was worried about is the identification, because they've been going on the third floor and second floor at the airport, and nobody knows who the hell they are. But with something on it, as long as you're going to put some kind of identification, that would work out for them. But I thank you all, and we have a quick transportation, quick cab, and I also am on the board for Greater Orlando Livery Service. Thank you.
Thank you. So Jose Alvarado, Roger Chapin, Jose Marquis. Okay.
In support, right?
In support.
Good afternoon. I hope you'll pass this plan today. The question everybody wants to know is it the right one? And the fact is, only time will tell. And it's not the end of the book. In fact, it's only the first chapter. Uber and Lyft like to say they operate in all these cities across the country. But when it gets down to it, they really only cite a few as examples, whereas a vast majority of them, they're operating, in fact, illegally. For example, they're operating illegally in every Florida city today. As Mr. Bumgardner pointed out, they're in violation of state insurance laws. And it's not just the periods, the period 1, 2, 3, the $1 million liability, this or that, for the drivers. If your insurance company knows you're driving for hire, they're going to cancel your policy, your personal policy, whether they find out before, during, or after an accident. If they found out that you were providing commercial insurance at any time, they're not going to claim you. And if you have a loan on your car, you're probably going to run into some violations there with your loan covenants. So, Commissioner Hill, we've talked a lot about making sure that, the drivers are protected too and not getting into a situation that might later on be over their head. While some of these companies point to California as a place for best practices, just last week the San Francisco District Attorney sued Uber over what he calls their worthless background checks. And many legislators in California, where a lot of this technology was born, are trying to re-regulate because they've gone too far. Uber doesn't tout New York, New Orleans, or Nashville. These are all places where ordinance is passed, and Uber operates, and they're even stricter than some of the regulations you're considering today. Just last week, San Antonio passed some new rules, but they don't mention that either because they don't like those rules either. In Nevada, Uber was kicked out of the entire state altogether. Today, the New York Times ran a story titled, "Uber's System for Screening Drivers Draws Scrutiny." So what did we do in Orlando? Well, we met for 6 months, meetings, workshops. The mayor's top administrators sat in on all the meetings, and the result was a new plan that would allow Uber to operate almost exactly the way they would like to operate. Reduced barriers to entry, use your smartphone as a meter, no caps on the number of vehicles. They can use any make, model car they wish. And today you've tweaked it even more by eliminating the 25% premium and also reducing the permitting fee. So now everyone will play by the same rules. It is important to keep the background checks, and I would merely suggest that if you want proof, OPD has issued probably 2 dozen to 3 dozen citations to Uber and Lyft drivers over the past 3 or 4 months. If you want to know how vigorous their background checks are, why don't you ask OPD to do backgrounds on the ones they gave tickets to? I think you'd be very surprised at what you would find. So only time will tell if these rules will work. Will Uber and Lyft comply? Are the barriers still too high? How will ADA be impacted? We'll have a much better idea in several months. I can tell you these types of regulations are nothing new for vehicle for hire. In fact, background checks, vehicle inspections, proving insurance, and fare regulations are actually very typical. What is not typical is a company that systematically and strategically aggregates, encourages, and profits off knowingly and willingly violating the law and taking no responsibility for their actions. Today, our industry just wants to pass these rules. Why? Because we're tired of hearing that the old rules don't apply to new technology. So now we're level set, we're ready to go, we're ready to get back to work. Thank you for your time, and I hope you'll support this new regulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Jose Marquez, waive in support of the ordinance. Kingsley Blair.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and member of the council. My name is Kingsley Blair. Represent Diamond Cab Company, Diamond Transportation, 803 Fairvilla Road, Orlando, Florida, 32808. We're a small company that operates 59 taxis out of the 644 taxis that are in the city of Orlando. Currently, we abide by all the rules and regulations that are currently in place. We operate and pay the existing fees, the $500 application fee for the entire fleet, and we pay the $300 currently. Not even to mention the fees that we pay at the airport, on an average about $20,000 a month that we pay for picking up at the airport. As of last meeting, the changes that were made today, this is the first I'm hearing of them, so taking a little bit of time to digest that. But most of the changes we're in support of. From the meeting last time, I was somewhat appalled that the larger TNC had only met with your office once prior to that discussing their business model. If this was a smaller, less powerful company that entered the marketplace illegally and operated, we would not be sitting here having a public hearing. So I commend the commission trying to accommodate these two large companies, and I still don't see the corporation that are willing to bend with even all the changes that you guys have made and put in the last 6 months. As far as innovations are concerned, we welcome innovation. Quite frankly, Diamond Cab, as small as we are, we were the first company in Orlando to have a branded mobile app for taxi cabs. As you can tell, the safety and accountability concerns of the TNCs are not only by MERS, but all the other transportation companies that I've spoken today and previously, which accounts for more permits than the MERS organization currently has. So there is a concern. It's not just a MERS issue as far as safety and accountability. The rest of the industry, GOLA, and everybody else is concerned about that. But in light of the new changes that you have discussed today, I would be in support of them. The insurance issue with these two large companies, I don't see the issue of them not being able to provide the insurance that's required by all the other companies. This driver on the way, driver picking up, turning the app on or off should not be an issue. Just do the right thing. Go with the ordinance as far as the Florida statute is required and do the insurance. So basically, in long and short, if the ordinance, prior to what I heard today, I was going to suggest that we table this for 90 days to get some more input. But with the changes that you have discussed today, I would be in support of that. And let's go from there and tweak them as we go along. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next appearance request card I have filled out the address in the city and the other information without providing a name, but they say that they represent Americans for Prosperity. Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Andres Malave with Americans for Prosperity. We have our office over at 320 North Fern Creek Drive or Avenue. It's been a pleasure listening to all the commentary, and I commend the mayor and his staff for clearly revamping and taking issue with the pass language and trying to make it as effective as possible. However, after hearing Commissioner Ortiz and Commissioner Gray talking about the Wing Shack, I'm certainly pretty hungry at this point, so I started looking them up, and I could see that on their website, I could actually get 10 of their award-winning wings for $8.99. Commissioner, are you in for later? Maybe? Sounds good. And I thought that was outstanding that as a consumer I had that option to decide whether or not that place or Wingstop or any of the other places might be where I might go have dinner tonight and upset my my new wife that we're going to have chicken wings instead of the nicer meal I promised her. But what was also interesting was, I apologize, I really am hungry, so I kind of lost my point here. We have these options as consumers, and I thought it was very telling that with this proposal, what chaos would ensue if the gentleman from the Wing Shack would be being told that he has to charge a certain minimum for his wings for us to patron that restaurant. I think that's ridiculous for any sort of municipality to assert itself into the lives and the day-to-day operations of any business to try to impose any sort of rules like this. And I agree with Commissioner Sheehan that there do seem to be places where actually this is a perfect opportunity to not just stifle a new industry, but to actually revamp all of the regulations that oversee this sector of transportation. Because I'm sure that the taxi industry and the other proponents of this would probably be in agreement that not everything that is in those codes is favorable to their day-to-day operation as well. So maybe it's not about taking this opportunity to just grab a sector of industry that like Commissioner Stewart says, is innovative, but let's actually take that innovation a step further, and let's look at revamping the entire code, because quite frankly, you have that perfect opportunity right now. We take pride in standing for or standing against, depending on the measure, of any policy initiative that would stifle that entrepreneurial spirit and get in the way of the free market. And so currently, with the way that this proposal stands, I would hope that you would strike it down or at least continue to revisit it and make it the best product possible, because clearly the consumers that are out there are educated and want to make the best decisions for themselves and are finding a true value in what companies like Uber and Lyft have brought to Central Florida and across the state and across the country. And we want to see that continue as clearly, we are in a time and place where we need jobs, we need opportunities, we want that entrepreneurial spirit to continue to develop especially in our young students, like the gentleman that came down earlier. We want to continue to see that, and I appreciate your time very much, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you, Mr. Small.
Malave.
Malave.
Yes,
okay, Mr. Malave. I really appreciate your comments, especially talking about wings, because that's the beauty of that particular place. They have special wings, very selective, trophy wings.
And because of your rating, I'm going to go give them a try.
But they still have to pay for permits, they still have to get a license, and they still pay taxes.
Sure.
So with that being said, and they're just as entrepreneurs as anybody else.
Sure. With regards to safety, I couldn't agree with you more. But with regards to the commission imposing itself on that business and telling them that they have to charge $1 per wing or $2 per wing, that's where I think the commission, might be.
It's all about the industry. This is a different industry, so you cannot be comparing apples with.
So let's talk about Java Lava across the street. Should they charge $5 for a cup of coffee in order to be able to compete with Starbucks, because maybe the commission is being favorable to Starbucks?
Once again, it's about the industry. We're talking about two different industries. You're talking about a service provider, okay, that has to do with the safety of people coming into question, and it also has to do with people who have been, as an industry, which we have already regulated for so long, and all of a sudden this particular industry is coming in, or this team is coming in, to try to impose themselves in a different fashion. So we have to meet at the table and come up with regulations that would serve everybody. We're not being unfair. I don't think we're being unfair. From what I'm hearing, I think we're in the right track here.
And I certainly commend you for all the good work that you've done so far, and hope that you continue to do that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, we have number 25 here, Danelle Cadley.
Well, I want to say, first of all, a pleasure to be here, as usual. Janelle Cadeli, host and my own radio show, Janelle Cadeli Live. also an ex-candidate for Orange County Mayor, and I intend to do the same thing in 2018 to change things myself. So I want to say, Mr. Body Dyer, General Kadeli, 8421 South Ubiti. I'm self-employed. I also got my own taxi industry, United Weekend Transportation, traveling tools. Now, I'm only here, first of all, I want to say happy holiday to everybody here. Hank and Regina Hill. I'm here, the ordinance is good, seems good, it's a set of changes. But started from New York City, Taxi and Limousine Commission, New York City. It's a different entity here compared to here. Here, everything is private. Private hotel, I want to say hi to Mr. Gift here. Private hotel, everything is privacy. It seemed like Orlando, when I came here from New York City 6 years ago, I don't know what he called it, trying to call it welcome to the private city of United States of America, Orlando. Everybody on a piece of Orlando. You can go to that hotel to pick up somebody, Holiday Inn owned by some kind of cab company. Even the convention center. In fact, when I moved here, I was driving taxi or Laveway here. It used to be a Orange County Convention Center where the taxpayer take control. Now, suddenly people, big companies like, well, superstars, not to try to shoot at my best friend here, means transportation, which I work for, provide me a little living for my kids, and I want to thank them for that. And Town and Country, what they do, we got to follow OUTDA for my best friend, P.O. Sahel stated here. We got a forgotten group called Independent Cab Driver Association. It's 2,000 small men and businesses out there making a living depending on that to put their kids to school just like I did. Raised 6 children back in New York City. One of them, she's a lawyer, studying from driving cab, New York City, and put myself to college, educate myself, go to communication, and then I'm happen to be a 9/11 survivor. Thanks God I'm here, put my life on the line, I make it out. Now I come back to Florida, try again, thrive into that industry. But the difference between New York City, Taxi and Limousine Commission, the industry in New York got their own department. Driving for New York City, Taxi and Limousine Commission, they got their own judge, they got their own inspectors, Taxi and Limousine, to follow OTDA, where we've been sometime been singled out because of Minority Cab Drivers Association, based on monopoly system we got first to address. Unless you got a super company, you call yourself Means or anybody else, you don't have a shot here. You've been trespassed for anything, for whatever reason. You've been pulled over, and international drive become like something private, so you're not even allowed. I like to see either one of you commissioners or mayor, but to check on whenever they got a convention in the convention center, where you got 10,000 people waiting on the line, but unless you Mears or Stars or Diamond or one of the superpowers, which I call, you're not allowed. And at the same time, company like OTDA and other company like United, whatever that is, pay taxes. You ask them to do, they got the $1 billion insurance, like you call it. And they also abide by every rules in the book. But still, they've been double-sided and prejudiced on that. And it seems like, for whatever reason, to all disrespect, you guys seem like overlooked based on, oh, I could understand that. Campaign donation from those super companies. You need to, I'm also a candidate. You need to touch that. You need to be fair. Come whenever they got a huge convention, you got 100,000, when you have 100,000 room builders. 100 cab for at least 1,500 people on the line. Unless you mayors or other ones, you kick out. You force one of those, one of the business people come here for hospitality. They're forced to wait for maybe half an hour on the line while we got all kind of small cab companies who abide by every rules, chasing around like shark back and forth, barely make $50, and you got meals go over and maybe 10 airport every 5 hours. How are you going to explain that? How you judge that? Is it fair? Is it America? It's not like that in New York. New York, I drove my own car. We got Lively. We got Taxi and Limousine Commission, who have nothing to do with deputies. First of all, it's the taxpayers. I want to know why the Orange County Convention Center is privatized. If one day they kick me out there, I'll sue everybody because I want to know, with my tax money, go to pay for an employee over there. I like the answer from the mayor to see how that is fair. How can you justify that? Meals charge $1,000 a week. It's $52,000 a year, sometime plus. Some people I know driving for means transportation. They lose their houses. They're forced to lose
You
their
got about
lives.
20 seconds.
I understand because I've been making some senses here. I like to get some answers or challenges to what I've been saying here. What I recommend, in fact, what I'll do if I become mayor, I will create, like New York, I will get the taxi and limousine commissioner. That's what's missing. We need our own taxi. Is that right? Our own taxi and limousine commissioner who control the industry. Not a team. Which I think you've done a good job by now trying to make some changes here. That's good, but it's not good enough. I'm also a good soccer player. I like the fact that you try to be the soccer team here. Soccer stadium here. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I like some challenge to see what I said.
Well, and just for a little bit of clarification, since you're running for Orange County mayor, you know that Orange County is the one that operates the convention center, not us.
And why you running the issue for Orange County taxes?
What's that?
Why the city? That's what I'm trying to do if I become mayor. I will make sure the city control the city taxes and the county control the county taxes. That's what you just bring a good point. Thank you to remind me that.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Thanks. Okay, that is the last of the appearance request cards. So we will discussion among commissioners. Commissioner Ings, then Commissioner.
Yeah, the only thing that I had to say, if you had no other speakers, I'd call for the question.
Well, let's give Commissioner Stewart an opportunity to say what he wants to say. I'm so proud of you, Commissioner Ings. I've never.
Hey, Mayor, it's that red tie and that red vest that you're wearing, and just making me feel so good up here.
I'm going to be the wordy one. We'll get out before 5. I am very concerned about how these companies communicate to their consumers. I can't control that, but we can control the people who, when they get into a car in Orlando, what have we done to protect them? That's the key thing. I want to kind of touch base on one quick thing so that Lyft is on the same page as their own information. But Lyft has a donation city and a charge city, and the city of Orlando, under Lyft's own website, is considered a charge city. And so, therefore, none of the information you do there is by donation, which is kind of an interesting kind of dilemma that you're in now, because you end up creating an idea of that you are rideshare and donation, but your own website doesn't call it that. Your website calls Orlando something different. In fact, specifically calls Orlando a non-donation market. And so it's always challenging that when you kind of read the fine print, what that actually happens. I'm concerned about the safety of our citizens. And while I have several thousand emails that we've all received, especially the latest one of 3,500 from my district who are mad at me about this for some reason, I'm going to stand on Paramount, even at the risk, Paramount of safety, even at the risk of losing my job. We're going to do the right thing for the safety of our citizens. We do the right thing for police. We do the right thing for fire. We're going to do the right thing for transportation as well. And so with that, Mayor, I'm going to support the this ordinance.
Mr. Sheehan.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a lot of concerns, especially barrier to entry. I didn't think it was fair to have different fares. A lot of the concerns that I had have been addressed through this process. I would say, though, that there is this whole notion of new technology, communication through social media, keyboard courage, slamming our emails with thousands of emails so we can't do our work. I think there's a level of incivility, unfortunately, that comes with this kind of communication where nothing beats a little face-to-face contact and just talking to folk. And that's what I do. I consider myself a retail politician. I go to these neighborhood meetings and go out and meet people. And this has been very difficult because there hasn't been this level of engagement that is, there's been this level of fighting through the internet and different things like that. And I think that's unfortunate and a lot of misinformation. At the end of the day, we have to protect public safety, and a lot of the concerns that I had are addressed through this process. But we're not trying to be mean. We're not trying to squash technology, which But at the same time, we have public records, things that we have to comply with. So these thousands of emails have been very onerous on our individual staffs. That's not the way to get what you want. The way to get what you want is to talk and work with us. And it's unfortunate that it's got to this food fight situation, but I feel that this ordinance protects public safety, levels the playing field, it takes away a lot of the barriers to entry that I was concerned with. And the reason why there are fare minimums simply so people will understand what a fair rate is, and so that they're not being gouged and things like that. But if they want to use an app that charges them more, they certainly have that freedom as well. So I think this makes it, I think this is a good ordinance. If we need to tweak it somewhat, we can. But as much as I was upset with the ordinance last week, I think this is a lot better, and we had a lot of folks actually supportive of it today. So I think this is good work. I think the procedure was messy because of this unfortunate lack of desire to sit down and talk about it, and I think we finally got to that last week, and I'm glad that that happened. But again, I'd say to anybody, don't fight it out on the internet. Don't fight it out on Facebook. Don't try to do public business in the wrong way. We are bound by public rules and discourse and everything like that, and we're just trying to do the right thing here. And again, the best way to get what you want is to work with us. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. So the bottom line is, under this ordinance, if the TNCs or ride-sharing companies want to operate legally in the city of Orlando, we have provided a mechanism for them to do that. All in favor of the motion indicate so by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. That concludes the official business for the Orlando City Council today. Thank all of you who testified today for taking time and patience to come do that.